Good afternoon. I'll call to order the study session of the Newport Beach City Council, July 12, 2016. City Clerk, roll call, please.
The record will reflect that Councilmember Duffield has an excused absence.
Current business, first item of our study session, number 1, clarification of items on the consent calendar. Any members have any clarification of any items? All right, we'll proceed to study session item number 2, Newport Beach and Company's annual report. And we have Tara.
Good evening, Mayor.
Thank you.
Members of the council. Gary Sherwin from Newport Beach and Company is here this evening to give us a look at what they've accomplished in the past fiscal year and a preview of what's to come. I want to note for the council that your first meeting in August will see several reports from Visit Newport Beach and the Tourism Business Improvement District that are their compliance reports for their annual agreements. So those are yet to come.
Okay. Mr. Sherwin, welcome. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, honorable members of the City Council. I'm Gary Sherwin, the President and CEO of Newport Beach and Company, and it is indeed a pleasure and a big honor to be with you today to kind of give you our update on a number of things that we've been involved with over the last year. Before I get started, however, I'd like to introduce, for a couple of opening comments, our Vice Chair and the General Manager of the Newport Beach Marriott Hotel and Spa, Debbie Snavely.
Honorable Mayor and City Council, good afternoon. I'm Debbie Snavely, General Manager of the Newport Beach Marriott Hotel and Spa, Vice Chair of Newport Beach and Company, and Chairman of the Newport Beach Tourism Business Improvement District. As many of you know, I've been involved as a governing member of both Visit Newport Beach and Newport Beach and Company for several years now. I've had the honor and privilege to serve with a wonderful and very engaged executive committee, and 4 of them are with me today. Please let me introduce you to them. First, Denny O'Neill, your city appointee to our board, and this year serves as our chairman. Andy Theodoro, Newport Dunes Waterfront Resort and Marina, immediate past chair. Homer Bludow, former city manager, and Carl Kruger, general manager of the Fairmont Newport Beach. We have 2 other executive committee members who could not be with us today, Linda Beimfor from Hornblower Cruises and Candy Bisconte from Access Destination. On the screen, you will see our full board of directors, including several new ones, including Andrea Fairchild, who is the president of Kobe Bryant's company, and Dennis Kuhl, the chairman of the Angels. Together, this dedicated group meets every month, reviews the financials and the performance metric of Visit Newport Beach and Newport Beach and Company, and provides close oversight to make sure every dollar is well spent. As a business person myself, I know these dollars are well spent. This year, I am pleased to tell you that my property, the Newport Beach Marriott, will have its best year in the history of the hotel. There are a few reasons for this, including the very talented colleagues I work with at my property, but is also due to the exceptional work undertaken by the very knowledgeable and skilled team at Visit Newport Beach and Newport Beach and Company. As you all know, but it bears repeating, Visit Newport Beach is a true public and private partnership. 8 of us in the hotel community contribute a 3% assessment through our Tourism Business Assessment District to fund our group sales efforts. That total is about the same amount as the city's contribution to this organization through TOT. Our group sales effort, which brings our valuable meetings and convention business, funds this entire effort. This assessment district allows the city to enjoy all the upside of a very strong group sales effort at no cost. And please know that the hotel industry in Newport Beach simply cannot succeed without a vibrant group sales effort. As an example, the TBID has generated $15 million in additional revenue to my property alone, which means the city saw an additional $1.5 million in TOT. The Newport Beach market is performing very well right now, and as someone who has been in the hotel industry for more than 30 years, I will tell you a large amount of that is due to the skilled marketing and sales effort of this organization. In a few moments, you will see the numbers that demonstrate the incredible performance of this group. I can assure you that without Visit Newport Beach and Newport Beach and Company, the tourism industry would not be nearly as productive and successful. All of us on the executive committee and board of directors are very proud of the work and the deliverables that were produced this year, and any of us on the executive committee will be pleased to answer any of your questions after our presentation. With that, I'll turn the podium to our President and CEO, Gary Sherwin, for an update on what we have achieved during this remarkable year. Thank you.
Thank you, Debbie. In your packets that's been presented to you by staff, you received our very lengthy document that is our marketing plan for the next 2 years. As you know, we have a 2-year budget cycle with you, and that plan reflects 2 years worth of planning going forward starting July 1 of this year. I thought today, though, as is usually my custom, that I would spend today to talk about the performance of the last year that just ended so that you can see what we generated on the city's behalf and some of the metrics associated with that. If you have any questions about that plan, we're happy to address that certainly at the upcoming meeting where the budget is included in that. So as I get started, I thought it would be kind of important to note the importance of tourism to this community. I think we all have sort of an intellectual understanding that tourism is important, but what happens if tourism went away? What would it mean to the average citizen of the city of Newport Beach? And so we actually commissioned a study through Destination Analysts that talked about the impacts of what that would be. And according to Destination Analysts, to keep Newport Beach government flowing at the same level that it is today without any significant cutbacks, taxes would have to be increased on residents by almost $1,000 a year. That's pretty significant. Also, even more significant is if you were to keep the economy of this community going at the current level that it is, meaning keeping the restaurants thriving, keeping the stores at Fashion Island successful, making sure that tax revenues continue to come in, it would cost every Newport Beach household an additional $36,628 in additional spending. Every household. And I think that demonstrates really the very significant benefits that tourism brings. As you can see here, it is a $1.4 billion a year industry. I know that's surprising for a community of our size, but when you can factor in all of the significant spending that goes on at properties like Debbie's, Fashion Island, Pelican Hill, it's not entirely surprising. We receive 7 million visitors a year, and we constitute or describe a visitor as anyone from outside Orange County. So if you're visiting from Irvine, you go to the beach, we don't include that number. We only include people from outside the county because these are people who would possibly stay overnight and perhaps stay longer, and they wouldn't be considered a local. We consider some of our adjacent cities locals, even though they're not necessarily Newport Beach residents. Let me go back to that one more other thing too, and that is 9,500 jobs are directly supported from this. And if you factor in room tax, retail tax, property taxes paid for by the hotels, there are about $31 million in taxes generated that we can directly and easily attribute to the tourism industry right now. And I would venture to say that's even somewhat small because that didn't factor into property taxes from retail operations. So let's take a look at how the market is performing. And Debbie indicated that our market is pretty healthy right now. And you can see the average daily rate for Newport Beach hotels over the last several years. We're looking at probably about a $244 average daily rate at our properties right now. You'll see over the last several years we've seen a steady increase, about a 45%. If you look where we're forecasting out, we're looking at a little bit less than $20 a night increase over the next 2 years. It's important to note that what is going to be happening in the market, and this is happening a lot nationally, is that we're going to see occupancy somewhat leveling off, growth of 1% to 2%, but we're still going to see some modest growth in average daily rate. And we're already seeing that in the market this year. How do we compare to the rest of Orange County? Because you could say, well, if everyone's doing well, we must be as well. Well, that is true to a certain extent, but if you look at the other cities in Orange County, we are performing significantly better, about 56% above the Orange County average. This includes South County, Anaheim, everyone else in the county. That is the average daily rate versus ours, so we are actually doing significantly better. I wanted to kind of illustrate this brand promise to you, and I show this to you. Those of you who have sat through my presentations over the last several years always see this. And the reason I put this here is because the question is, how do we sell Newport Beach? What are the compelling attributes that define our sales effort? Well, our brand promise is really our strategy on how we go about selling this unique destination. It is the platform in which we make all sorts of decisions. But the reason I bring this to you today is that it is also kind of a mandate that I hope that you will see as well. Because while I sell the product, you create the product. You keep the roads paved, you take care of the medians, you improve the infrastructure, you keep this community vibrant. And that vibrancy, that product, is the message that supports our brand promise. So we are really, truly partners in the marketing of Newport Beach. Because when the city begins to decline in terms of its quality, that affects the brand that we're well known for around the world. So I want to thank you for your commitment to destination excellence in terms of your continual efforts to keep this community first rate in terms of all of its infrastructure and all of its maintenance, and keeping Newport Beach looking the unique way that it looks. So let's get into Newport Beach and Company and Visit Newport Beach. These are the numbers for the just completed year. We have unaudited numbers because it was a July 30th fiscal. The TOT that we received was about $4.6 million. The TBID was about $3.9, and then in addition to that, we contract with you for Newport Beach TV, and also receive some modest stipends for helping support some of the business districts, such as Balboa Village and Balboa Island and such.
Excuse me, Gary, can I just ask a question?
Yes.
On the TOT, so the 4.6, that's a percentage of the total TOT.
That is what we received.
Yes.
So that is the 18% of the 10% of the TOT. The 3.9 is the 3% that are assessed to the 8 properties.
Yeah, so that has nothing to do with any general fund money. That goes that's from the properties directly into the TBID.
Thank you. And it's important to note that if the hotels were to close tomorrow, there would be no source of funding for us. We receive all of our funding, except for that contract money for Newport Beach TV. Both TOT and the TBID are entirely dependent on the healthy activities of the hotels. No Newport Beach resident and taxpayer pays into our tourism marketing efforts. It's very important to note that. It comes directly from and through the hotels.
And the visitors who pay those taxes.
And the visitors who pay it, the hotels are obligated to forward it to the city, and they can pass it through, which they do, but the hotels are on the hook for paying the city those funds.
Thank you.
So this is sort of our organizational structure, and I know it sometimes gets confusing. What is a Visit Newport Beach? What's Newport Beach and Company? I guess the best way to look at it is Newport Beach and Company is the integrated marketing agency that serves all of Newport Beach. And we break it down by what we call business units. So they're different, very specific programs of work. So Visit Newport Beach has its own contract with you, has its own program of work. It doesn't change from what we've always been able to do. So that is funded by the TOT, but it's also funded by the TBID, because under Visit Newport Beach is where all of our direct sales efforts are. Dine Newport Beach is the contract that we have with the Newport Beach Restaurant Association to provide marketing services. Celebrate is the contract we have with the Chamber to provide marketing services on behalf of the boat parade. You see TV Newport Beach, which is Newport Beach TV, and you are very familiar with that. And of course, Enterprise, which right now consists of the 2 business districts, both Balboa Island and Balboa Village. So to kind of give you a very quick wrap-up of what we've been doing for all of these entities, with the exception of Visit Newport Beach, we wanted to show you a very short video that will kind of encapsulate some of the activities for these various entities. So that's sort of a quick wrap up of what we've been doing for some of those other business units. But I do want to highlight one that we kind of briefly touched upon, and that was the Newport Beach Restaurant Week. Now, I know that you just awarded $9,000 special event grant to the Restaurant Association to support that in the next year. You're probably wondering, what exactly did you get last year out of that program? And I know for a long time that was a big question, whether there were any metrics associated with it. I will tell you there are, and here they are. The entire last year, you awarded a $10,000 grant. They generated about $28,000 in restaurant participation fees. We contributed some resources to it, so we have about an $85,000 budget. We used Open Table. Open Table doesn't allow us to talk publicly about how many seats came out of it, but they have indicated that there's a 17% increase in that. We had 17 new restaurants. But the most important number is how much direct revenue did Restaurant Week generate due to that promotion? And out of that study, $4.4 million in additional spending during Restaurant Week came out of that. So it was a pretty significant return on investment. And I think these are the kind of numbers that you're looking for when you decide you want to try to support initiatives like that. We tried a number of new things. You saw it in the video, the foodie quiz and such, to try to get people more excited about it. But we think we're finally been able to get some real strong momentum for that particular event. So let me talk a little bit about group sales. Debbie touched upon it because this is supported by our TBID. And we have a TBID board that is comprised of the assessed businesses that participated in the TBID. We're waiting for a new general manager at the Radisson, but the general managers participate in that as the governing entity, and they meet 2 to 3 times a year to kind of overview the program of work. Here's where the numbers are that are pretty significant. The Visit Newport Beach sales team, which is a very talented group of people who literally travel around the world to bring group business to Newport Beach, generated 335 definite bookings of a total of about 88,175 room nights. So you're probably saying, well, what does that mean? Out of that TBID budget of roughly $3.9 million, the hotels reported to us that our sales activities and the room nights that we generated through the TBID generated $22 million in hotel revenue. Again, reported by the hotels, not by us. In addition to that, we know that when people bring meetings here, they just don't stay in the hotel. They shop, they dine, they use local transport, taxis, Uber, what have you. They spend in the community. So if you take a look at the total economic impact of the 88,000 room nights, that generated $57 million in direct spending into Newport Beach. So if you're looking at a budget of $3.9 million, that's pretty good return on an investment to try to generate more business. Yes, Mayor.
Gary, on the estimated hotel revenue of $22 million, is that the TOT revenue or is that the hotel's revenue?
That is the hotel's revenue. That includes food and beverage. It includes the revenue that they derive out of the business.
So what's not here is the TOT revenue,
right.
the 10%.
Correct.
While these are great numbers, thank you to the successful marketing, what doesn't how do I say this? And I want to say it in a positive way. What doesn't Newport Beach have that it loses to another city? I mean, obviously, what do we compare ourselves to? What is it that we don't have that we could bring in more group sales numbers, for example?
Well, I thank you for asking, because it has been an issue, and I've talked with several council members over the years about it. We need more meeting space at the hotels. We are underspaced, and I know that a number of the hotels have looked at building more meeting space. Those of you who have been served as mayor for the mayor's dinner, we're kind of a little tight over at Debbie's Hotel. We need more space. Debbie's Hotel has looked at it. The Fairmont is looking at it. We're trying to get more space as a community. We'd love to have more space. It has to pencil out for the hotels, though, and that's kind of where, it gets a little bit tricky. And so we're trying to encourage as many of the owners to kind of explore new options for that. We know that we'll never have a convention center. We're not ever pushing that. But just our ratio of rooms to space is a little tighter than we would like to have as a community.
So is that where we'll lose a large group, for example, of 300 people? Or what is the
We did.
maximum that we're looking at?
Well,
250
it all varies on the number of delegates, but I will tell you, we had an opportunity to host the state Republican Party very recently, and we came close to fitting everybody in, but it just wasn't quite enough, and they chose a larger property near LAX. So if we had more space, I think we could be a little bit more of a competitive destination. The other thing to take note of is what is going on right now in Huntington Beach. And hopefully if you've had a chance to see Paseo, it is a lovely property. I told Bob Olson I wish he built it here instead of there. It is spectacular. The meeting space is beautiful. And they're also building a new wing onto the Hilton. So I suspect that Huntington Beach is going to be a significantly more aggressive partner, or not partner, a competitor, should I say, going forward. We do work with them on some initiatives, but now with Paseo and the Hilton coming on, it is going to be a little rougher. And we have already lost business to Huntington Beach because of that.
Is that right? What is our average room vacancy rate?
Well, we're approaching 80%. We're getting pretty close to it, but we still need to be able to go after group business. As Debbie said quite rightly, the way the hotels pay their bills is that they need a strong base of group business in order to be successful. That's why we place an emphasis on it. That's why when the T-bid was created, the hotel said, if we're going to invest money, let's put it in a group, because one, it's where we can best compete. Two, it's where we can pay our bills. And, you get a lot of food and beverage credit, and you get large groups of blocks, and you can forecast your revenue a little bit easier when you know you have layers of groups coming in. But it is getting much more competitive. Tonight, Anaheim is looking at providing incentives, as you know, to a few new 4-star hotels because they want to get into the luxury market. Now, the one thing they don't have and never will have is a beach, so that's good. But they are going to try to get much more competitive in trying to go after business that historically we've gotten, because they want to have a higher caliber of hotel product. And they plan on doing that somehow. I don't know how the vote will come out tonight, but I know that Disney wants to pursue this. They want to get a higher-end luxury hotel there, too. So the market here in the county is getting increasingly competitive. We're already seeing it. Hopefully that answered your question.
Yes, very good. Thank you.
Just to give you a historical background on how the T-bid has impacted the group sales effort. The T-bid was created in May of 2009. At that time, our operation generated a little over 10,000 room nights. You could see the tremendous growth. And that's because we had more people on the street selling and more resources to get in front of the people who can say yes to business. It is a simple sales proposition. And the way we work with our hotel partners in order to craft deals to get together with groups is a very unique formula that not a lot of cities have been able to kind of copy, which is a good thing. But it has allowed us to grow much faster. If you had asked me 3 years ago, we'd be pushing 90,000 room nights, I would have laughed. We closed a piece of business, and that was in 2012 for the BCS. That, if you recall, the BCS tournament was a citywide event, got us to that 28,000 number. And we said, well, that's the high water mark. We'll never see that again. Well, believe it or not, even without BCS, we blew through it. And our exceptionally talented sales team that gives up a lot of their private life to go traveling and knocking on doors and taking people out to get them to build that relationship. It's a very relationship-driven business. We owe them a big debt of gratitude for making that happen. They've delivered a lot of great business here to town. We've also decided this year we're working actually in partnership with Anaheim and Disneyland, and we have a China Meetings Initiative. We have a sales office in partnership with the Orange County Visitor Association in Shanghai and Beijing. This year, we're actually going to start working to cultivate meetings because, believe it or not, there is a demand for meetings from China. This is a new initiative, but we are joint sharing it to minimize the cost on it. But it is something that we're kind of excited about taking a look at. So let's take a look quickly at leisure marketing and where we invest the TOT dollars. Obviously, digital marketing is so important. It really, especially mobile, is really driving everything. And Mark Rudick, who's here, oversees that. And we've seen some great numbers coming out, particularly because we've embraced mobile platforms much faster than other destinations. And people do research and buy travel now more on mobile than almost any other device. To talk a little bit more about the international effort, roughly about 6% of our visitors are international. It counts for about 350,000 visitors to Newport Beach, which if you look at the number of 7 million, it's kind of small. But here's the reason why it's so important, and it's because when people come from international destinations, they stay longer, they spend more money. And our markets right now that we've been investing in is the United Kingdom, China, which, by the way, is now the #1 market into California. And China, by the way, was not even in the top 10 market into California as recently as 7 years ago. It has exploded because of visa reform. So we see now many more Chinese visitors, but also the market that has probably surprised us more than anything else is the Middle East. And we receive a lot of Middle East guests. They tend to stay at certainly properties like Debbie's and The Island and Pelican Hill and others. These are folks that will stay for 30 days or more. They will bring their staffs. They will bring their extended families. We have been working with our friends at Hoag Hospital. They have an executive physical program, and they have Farsi and Mandarin-speaking physicians because many of these folks come. They stay at the hotels, have their executive physicals done at Hoag, where you have to spend a whole day getting a battery of tests, get a plan on how to make your life more healthy, stay for a couple more days, and enjoy yourself. If you are from Dubai, the Dubai government will fly you to Newport Beach. You can stay at Pelican Hill or the Marriott or the Island or or the Fairmont, any of our Balboa Bay Resort. You can stay with your spouse. You have your executive physical, fly home. They will pay 100% of the costs for that program. So as I say to my friend, you thought Obamacare was bad. That is that's a pretty amazing program. But as a result, it has also generated a lot of visitation out of the Middle East. And you can walk around Fashion Island, you can see a lot of the folks are from Middle East and they have their extended families. If you talk to the Saudi royal families, in fact, Pelican Hill has a designated person in Abu Dhabi who does nothing but work with the Saudi royal families to bring them here. We've worked with them, in fact. They are really looking at Newport Beach and West LA, the Beverly Hills area, as the two hot areas, not hot meaning popular hot, for California. We are the two areas that they prefer to go to, particularly as summer comes. And they usually will come as the weather heats up, and then when Ramadan arrives, they tend to go back home. But it has become what I call a filet mignon market. Not big, but if you look at the spending per person, it is really extraordinary. To capitalize also on the China market, we've even developed a new Mandarin website that is available. And we're also working with Ctrip, which is the largest online travel provider in the world. We have Newport Beach packages on the Ctrip site in China, where people can then book their trip through that mechanism. Ctrip is bigger than Priceline, it's bigger than Expedia, it's bigger than Travelocity. It is enormous. And believe it or not, we're one of the few destinations that actually has a integrated marketing effort with them. So let me talk very quickly about the United Kingdom and the film festival, because that's something else that I know that you gave a 3-year worth of support to the film festival. And the film festival I see as a very important and critical asset culturally here, but also from a business standpoint. What we've tried to do is leverage that asset and use it for the greatest good in trying to sell the Newport Beach brand. So 2 years ago, we said, listen, you have a dedication to the UK film industry. Let's see if we can build a program where we launch the BAFTAs, and the BAFTAs are the equivalent of the British Oscars. So we actually host an event on the usually the Thursday night before BAFTA weekend. We honor a British film and a British filmmaker. This year we honored the film Brooklyn. Hopefully many of you saw it. It was a spectacular film. The director and screenwriter Nick Hornby attended it. And we also were able to do a series of radio interviews, and we did television to try to promote the film festival and Newport Beach. And Jared Harris, and if you were Mad Men fans, Jared Harris was a star of that. His father was actor Richard Harris. He became our designated spokesman because, frankly, media would rather hear from a celebrity than somebody like me. So Jared actually helped us with the radio interviews and the TV interviews and did a spectacular job getting us a lot of coverage. So we did a very quick wrap up. But I will tell you the part that our team here knows that I'm most excited about is that we actually had Newport Beach advertising in Piccadilly Circus. And those of you who've been to London and seen that know what a big deal that is. So you'll be able to see some footage of it. Here it is. Hello, I'm Gary Sherwin, president of Newport Beach & Company, and we are here at the Bulgari Hotel in London to celebrate the second annual Newport Beach Coming to the UK to honor the very best of British film. This year we're honoring the film Brooklyn. We have the director, the writer Nick Hornby, as well as actor Jared Harris, who's a big fan of the film festival, and he's sort of our ambassador to help tell the story of why the Newport Beach Film Festival has such a wonderful connection with British film. It's going to be a terrific night. The Newport Beach Film Festival is the fastest growing festival in North America.
But you're also the UK ambassador for something called the Newport Beach Film Festival. What's this all about?
Right now I have the great pleasure of being joined in the studio with both Gary Sherwin from Visit Newport Beach and also Jared Harris. Good afternoon, gentlemen.
Our next guest joining us now, it's only Jared Harris.
Good morning, guys.
Good morning.
Hello,
welcome to the show.
You're here to talk about the Newport Beach Film Festival.
Tell me about the Newport Beach Film Festival.
Two other components I just want to add to that were included in that. HMV is the entertainment retailer in the UK. It's as big as Amazon. They actually still have bricks and mortar stores where they sell DVDs and CDs in the UK. We developed an in-store promotion with them, tying in with the film festival. So when you saw the HMV, we actually had multi-store displays promoting Newport Beach and the film festival. And then Curzon Cinemas is the luxury cinema chain in the UK. And we had 1-minute Newport Beach commercials running before every movie during about a 1-month period. So it was a very integrated campaign to help tell the story, which we were very excited about. And by the way, American Airlines came aboard, and they were our official airline partner and provided all the airfare for everyone to be able to get over there.
So bottom line, how many people from the UK typically come to Newport Beach?
Well, we probably are looking at probably about 100,000 or so that we get out of the UK. We get a lot of folks out of Canada, but frankly, our Canadian friends aren't. They don't spend quite as much as some of our other international guests. But the UK visitors are very loyal. They have been. It was one of our first international markets. And it's important to note that as recently as 8 years ago, we were not an international destination. we did not see a lot of folks coming from around the world to Newport Beach. And I think it's really a statement for the community that we've evolved. We've developed some wonderful hotel products. We've developed an expanded retail. We're also very aggressive about getting our message out, and now we are a global destination. We're starting out. Remember, we were really nowhere, and now we're getting to 350,000. But you can go to China, you can go to the Middle East and mention Newport Beach. They will certainly know about us, certainly in the UK as well. And
The British like to go to Spain and Portugal in the middle of winter. So we're competing with Spain and Portugal. And
they do, but the Brits love America. And usually what happens is that if they're coming to America for the first time, they will maybe go to Orlando or New York. But after they come, we will usually be on their second trip because they want to go to the other coast. And the Brits are loyal. Now, probably one of the questions is, what is Brexit going to do to all of this? Because right now, we are not as good a deal as we used to be before the Brexit vote. The British pound has collapsed against the dollar, so we are more expensive. But if you want to go to London, it's a great time to go on vacation there. But it is something that we are going to have to monitor to see where their economy goes. There's talk of possible mild recession. We don't know. They have a new prime minister coming on board tomorrow. So we'll see what happens. We are watching the situation very closely to see what happens. And if the economy collapses, we're going to maybe try to recalibrate. But we don't like to get in and out of international markets very quickly because it takes a long time to develop a presence there, and you can't just jerk your chain and turn it on and off. You have to kind of maintain a long-term commitment. But we'll see what happens with the economy there. It is something that is something that does concern us quite a bit. Want to also mention too that we have a visitor center, and hopefully you've seen it when you've gone to Fashion Island. It's in partnership with the Irvine Company. We have what we call a visitor concierge because we're a concierge destination. We're not a usual destination. We have a higher level of service, so that's why we call it a visitor concierge. This has been a partnership we've now had for several years with the Irvine Company, and they appreciate us being there, and it allows us to service our visitors 7 days a week. And Cher, I think, who manages that for us, is sitting here in the audience today. And then we also produce a series of collateral materials, of course, a visitor guide and map. Our marketing team, headed up by Doug McLean, who's with us, is done a truly exceptional job in not only creating campaigns, but most importantly, the campaigns that we undertake are done during particular need periods. You'll be surprised to know that August has now become a need period in Newport Beach, and that is because schools are starting earlier. There was a time when kids went to school after Labor Day. Now you're finding colleges, universities, and many school districts starting in August. We saw this happen last year where occupancy dropped pretty significantly in August. It's great for education. It's not so great for tourism. So we now have to develop campaigns, which is traditionally in the middle of summer, in order to help shore up some of that lost business, because I think it surprised a lot of the hotels, and it's just kind of been a phenomenon that's occurred over the last couple years. But the drive market is still very important to us in LA, San Diego, and then certainly Phoenix, Las Vegas, and even Palm Springs. Those are our core domestic markets that we go after with a variety of campaigns. Certainly, public relations is something that we place a lot of emphasis on because it is that third-party implied endorsement. So we work with a variety of media sources, but we influence directly 832 stories. So if somebody wrote a story and we didn't have any involvement with it, that is not included in that. It is only stories that we had involvement in terms of hosting a travel writer, fulfilling inquiries, providing information, and such for these various publications, plus some. So one of the things I think Doug has done during his time with us over the last year and a half is to really focus on metrics as it pertains to the leisure market. As you know, trying to count leisure guests is much more difficult than our group guests. But Doug has been able to work with a market research company that can do advertising effectiveness studies and can actually measure these shoulder campaigns that I was mentioning earlier. So Doug's efforts in our leisure efforts that also include the Christmas Boat Parade and Restaurant Week generated 71,800 room nights with a total spend of about $38 million, which is up significantly because of the media buys that we chose and the increasingly effectiveness of them. So if you had to kind of sum up what we've done, if you take what we generated on the group side, you took what we generated on the leisure side, the total number of room nights that we brought into this community through our marketing efforts was just shy of 160,000 room nights. Now, I will also preference the fact they were not all in the year for the year on the group side. These are room nights that sometimes will be, we will see consumed in next year or the year after. The leisure side, certainly that was consumed in this year as well. That is about 18% of the total rooms sold in the city of Newport Beach completely, which is pretty significant. If you add up the total economic impact between group and leisure, the total revenue and the total economic impact was over $95 million, which was up about 31% from 2015. I'm very proud of our team for a really stunning performance this year and their efforts to really maximize and track, particularly on the leisure side, because that has always been hard. We come to you with website hits and Google searches and all that, and that's great. It measures effort. It doesn't necessarily measure results, and we wanted to measure results and bring that back to you. And this year, we've really been able to kind of nail that down, and Doug has done a great job with that. And we have a dedicated marketing person as well who emphasizes and manages that whole metric program as well, Colleen, and she is just Colleen Costello, who does a great job for us on that. So finally, I wanted to share, I think a very interesting slide with you. I did not prepare this. This is not my slide. This actually comes from an economist named Adam Sachs, and he has a company, Tourism Economics. He presented this at a conference, and I thought it was so interesting that we asked if we could borrow it. There's always a question of, well, Newport Beach is a beautiful city. It's a spectacular city. What happens if we just stop marketing? People would still come, wouldn't they? Does it make any difference whatsoever? And nobody has really been able to definitively answer that question until an unfortunate case study evolved a few years ago in San Diego. Now, many of you probably heard about Mayor Bob Filner. Bob Filner was the mayor of San Diego for only about 8 months, but he was quite a character. He eventually had to leave because of some personal indiscretions. But one of the things that he did do during his time is he held up the funding for the San Diego Tourism Authority, which funds basically the Visit San Diego, or in their case, it's I think San Diego Conviz. And they held up funding to the point where their entire tourism operation was shut down for about a year. There was no marketing going on for San Diego from January 13th to January 14th. They laid off their staff. They got out of the business. They didn't have the funding. It was a political nightmare. So what happened? Did it make a difference? Because you could say San Diego is an amazingly successful city. It's got SeaWorld, it's got the zoo, it's world-renowned. Certainly, business would be able to sustain itself even if no one was out there telling the story. Well, here's what we've learned. And Adam took a look at both the top 25 markets in the United States, so this is a national trend. And then he looked at the competitive set, which includes Orange County, includes LA, and kind of tracked what our performance was because we were still obviously in the tourism marketing business. And then he took a look at what happened with San Diego and the change in their occupancy. And it was severe, very severe. And the lesson learned here is that you can be a very successful destination, but if you stop asking for the order and stop going aggressively after business, other destinations will eat your lunch for you. This was a profound slide to me when I first saw it, and I want to share it with you because it's something to remind us that we can't take marketing for granted because we have a lot to lose if we don't invest in it. and San Diego saw the worst of it. Debbie told me that the San Diego hotels with Marriott are still in the midst of trying to recover from this. They're doing much better now, but they've had a long road up. The only variable, by the way, in this trend, because you can see we were well in the middle of a successful recovery. The economy was going strong. The only variable in this chart was that San Diego stopped marketing themselves. And that's what happened to them. So I just wanted to share that with you because I thought it was a very profound demonstration. So with that, I think I kept it shorter than previous years. I hope I did. Because our chairman, Denny O'Neill, will swap my knuckles if I overtalk here a little bit. But I'm more than happy to answer any of your questions about anything we've presented. I know the marketing plan that you've seen, I think we'll talk about at another meeting. But if there's anything about what we've done in the last year that I can help clarify for you, I'm more than happy to do that, as well as members of our executive committee. Thank you.
Any speakers? No? Well, Gary, thank you, and staff and members of your board, thank you for being here today, and thank you for what you do to bring strength to our local economy, and it looks good.
Well, and again, I reiterate my point. I will tell you it is a humble privilege to sell a city this great. I know there's a lot of people around the country who would love to be able to have the wonderful assets that I have in order to tell our story, and I do it with a great deal of pride, as does our team in the office. But I also want to thank you for your commitment to certainly not only supporting tourism, but keeping this city looking and feeling as successful as it is. It is, as I've said before, a very strong and important partnership, and we appreciate working with all of you and certainly with city staff as well.
Thank you. Done a fine job. Thank you so much. Appreciate it. All right, moving on to study session.
Public comment.
Oh, excuse me. Thank you. Public comments.
Mayor Dixon, members of the City Council, my name is Jim Mosier. Since the council seems big on public-private partnerships, I wanted to say that while the promotion of Newport Beach as a tourist destination benefits some businesses, for most residents, and it is the voting residents who elect you, tourism has more minuses than it has pluses. And unlike the slide you just saw, I do not believe that if you were to totally tomorrow stop the public funding of the advertising and promotion of the tourism business, that the pluses would go away, because after a year or less, the hotels in San Diego would wake up to the fact that the city council was not paying for their advertising and realize they themselves had to pay for it, just like any other business does. And I wanted to point out to you that for most of the history of this city, that is how it worked in Newport Beach. We had a private conference and visitors bureau, voluntarily and exclusively funded by the businesses that it benefited. It wasn't until the 9th of February in the recession year of 1989 that the Bureau came to the City Council, hat in hand, asking the Council to shore up the Bureau's flagging voluntary revenues by tacking on an extra involuntary tax on the visitors above and beyond the TOT that the visitors already paid to defray the city's costs for serving them. All the same arguments were made in 1989 about the incredible returns that the city would receive in return for its investment, but to their credit, 3 of the 7 council members questioned whether this was even a proper activity for a city government to be involved in, especially when at that time the hospitality business owners themselves didn't seem to think that it was something worth investing in anymore. That's why they came to the city council, because the hotel owners didn't see it as a good investment. I may be branded as an outlier for continuing to question this, but I don't think I am, and I sure wish the vote in 1989 had gone 4-3 the other way. As to this report that I got from the city clerk's office, I don't know how many of you have tried to read it. I don't understand quite what it is. Mr. Sherwin said it's a report about the year coming up starting July 1st, but on the cover of it, it says it's for 2 years, the first of which is a year off from now. And to me, trying to read it, it sounded like somebody took a bunch of marketing buzzwords and images, put them in a blender, stirred them around, and then printed whatever came out. I thought that as hype, it was excellent, but as a public informational document, it's pretty useless, and I hope that the reports that we see in August will be better. Based on this, about all I could say is that Mr. Sherwin's vision of a Fantasyland Newport Beach is not mine, and this would not convince me to put a penny into supporting his efforts. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments? Please come forward. Okay, seeing none. Come back here. Any other comments from the council? Seeing none. All right. Where is Ms. Finnegan? All right. All right. Oh, there you are, right in front of me. All right. So thank you very much. Appreciate it. And thank you, Visit Newport Beach and Company. Thank you. All right. Study session item number 3, presentation on the preliminary flood insurance rate maps recently released by FEMA. So, Ms. Brandt. And
Thank you, Mayor Dixon. Good afternoon, council members. Assistant Director Simone Georges and I do have a presentation for you tonight on some recent maps that the Federal Emergency Management Agency has published, and they're very significant as they do have implications for our coastline, particularly in the West Newport and Peninsula area. So with that, Simone has his presentation.
Thank you and good evening. Tonight's presentation is FEMA's Open Pacific Coast Study. I have about 20 slides to go through, a lot of information here. First of all, what is this Pacific Coast Study that FEMA's doing? Well, it's really a mapping project to update our flood insurance rate maps that are used by the National Flood Insurance Program. And we, as a city, are a participant in this National Flood Insurance Program, and I'll talk about that in a brief moment here. Coastal flooding from the Pacific coast is a result of two things: still water levels and waves. Still water are tides, so high tide, low tide, king tide. Waves are typically originated by wind and swells from storms that are distant. You add those two factors together, still water or tidal levels and waves, and then you start to generate and model a type of impact to the coastal communities. What I'm going to show you is a study that was done by FEMA, and really it's an event that has a chance of a 1% chance per year, and that's what this event I'm going to show you. First of all, I want to talk about the National Flood Insurance Program. The city voluntarily participates in this program along with about 550 other communities in California. It's voluntary. And the purpose is that it provides federally backed affordable flood insurance to all participants. And why do we care about that? Well, a private insurance company can pick and choose their level of risk. They don't necessarily need to provide flood insurance to everybody. Here, it's a federal program, and the feds will provide flood insurance to all businesses, all commercial properties, multifamily, and single-family properties. But there is a caveat to this. Since we participate in the National Flood Insurance Program, we have to regulate development in the floodplains. And basically, you can't, and for a simplest form, you can't build below the flood line. And that really applies to new construction. And there are some challenges for remodeling. There's some challenges for additions. But for us to participate in this flood insurance program, we have to regulate the development in the floodplain. Just a little bit more background here on the flood insurance program. Your homeowner's insurance does not cover for flood damage. You have to have a rider policy or a supplemental policy for flood insurance. Federal law requires flood insurance for federally backed loans, and those are your standard Fannie Mae or Freddie Mac. For jumbo loans, they're not federally backed loans, but for jumbo loans, a lot of the lenders are requiring flood insurance, and we checked with Wells Fargo and Bank of America, and they are requiring flood insurance for those jumbo loans. If you refinance your home, you're going to be your lender will require you to have flood insurance. And as you'll see in a moment here, if the map does get changed, your lender is going to come back to the property owner and require the additional flood insurance. So let's go ahead and jump into the maps. This is our current flood insurance rate map. This is the flood map as we talk about. And you can see in the orange zone or down the peninsula is already in a flood zone, but it's categorized as a 0.2% chance of getting flooded. So they consider that as more of a low to moderate flooding potential. You can see the harbor is in this blue color, and if you follow that blue color to the right, you can see Balboa Island is covered in blue. Balboa Island sits too low, and we know that, and they're already in the flood zone, and they call that the special flood hazard area. They are required, their lenders are going to require them to get flood insurance. I typed that elevation 8 because that's the base flood elevation. A lender will look at the these flood maps and see if you sit in Balboa Island, they're going to want to know what your elevation is. And if your elevation of your property is below 8, they're going to require flood insurance. So this is current map. Now I'm going to show you the proposed maps. So now you could see that this blue zone now, it actually covers the peninsula. It covers up and down the peninsula. And we could see the West Newport area, which a majority has been covered. What I'll show you here in a brief moment is the coastal properties and how they're affected by this new change. So right now, what I'm going to do next is I'm going to zoom in at the uppermost part of the peninsula, then the middle part of the peninsula, and then the tip of the peninsula. Again, here we are at the West Newport. This is the current map that we have, and I've indicated 2 elevation points, and these elevation points are very important. You can see elevation 8 for the harbor side, and you can see elevation 13 for the coastal side. And this elevation 13 is the wave height, is a modeled wave that can actually project up to the coastline. So current map shows these 2 elevation points. Now I'm going to show you what's been proposed. You can see how that flood zone has actually carried over through West Newport. Still, that's elevation 8 for the inland portion. So any properties that are below that elevation 8 are now mapped here, and now they're considered to be in the flood zone. But what's really critical is on the coastal side. You could see the wave height elevations have completely changed. Now it jumps from 13 now up to 17. And I'm going to zoom in just a little bit more here. Now we're getting a little bit closer to the coastline because I want to show you what's the true impact. Now the proposed elevation 17 now these waves are now affecting private property. So they're crossing over the property line into the actual private parcels. And now these private parcels, anytime they want to do development, they're going to have to start at elevation 17. Now I'm talking about new construction. Remodels and additions are still challenging, and they're still affected by this. But now, development with this proposed map, you have to start at elevation 17 because now it affects private property. I'm going to move down here to the middle of the peninsula, and you can see Bay Island again. We have elevation 8 on the harbor side, and that's your tidal level, and we have elevation 13 on the coastal side. Now the proposed map shows elevation 8. It's affecting the middle of the peninsula. All those properties now are affected in that light blue. Bay Island is now severely affected. And now you look at the coastal side where you see elevation 20 now for the wave height and actually coming up onto private properties. And I've zoomed in even closer, and basically it's encroaching within half the property. Now we're at the tip of the peninsula here. Again, the same elevations, 8 and 13. Now that's changed on the coastal side to elevation 20, and I'm going to zoom in a little bit more. That's current and now proposed. And now you see how the wave heights now have encroached into private property at elevation 20. So you want to tear down and build a brand new house on the coastal side, your elevation is going to start at elevation 20 because you cannot build in the floodplain. So what are we going to do? What are we doing next? Staff feels that FEMA takes a very conservative approach to the modeling and the analysis. what we want to do is we want to look at that data. We're going to hire a consultant by Everest International Consultants. And we want to do our own analysis. We want to look at what theorems FEMA has used and what other theorems that are out there. There's not just one way to model a wave. There's other ways to model a wave. And we want to go back and do our own analysis and come up with a more practical approach to this modeling. If we feel that what we've come back with as far as our data and our modeling is a more practical way of modeling these waves, we're going to file an appeal to these preliminary maps. Now, as far as a schedule standpoint, FEMA is going to produce these preliminary maps into kind of more of a paper form and publish those out in August 2016. Again, they're still preliminary. They're going to follow up with a meeting of the community September of 2016. Eventually, the federal process is that they have to publish these maps in the Federal Register for it to become effective. That's the only window of opportunity for us to file an appeal. Right now, that time frame when they publish in the Federal Register is the first quarter of 2017. So we're being very proactive. We're getting our consultant engaged now, and we want to do our analysis now. So we want to be ready for first quarter of 2017 to file an appeal to these preliminary maps. The final maps eventually will, whatever version that is, will become effective March 2018. Just for members of the community at home, we have reference information as far as flood insurance on smartflood.gov. These preliminary FEMA maps are on a web link that we've put here on our PowerPoint. Our consultant with Everest International is Ying Poon, and he's here tonight. Samir Gosan will be our project manager for this project, and we have our email addresses and contact info if there's any questions from the community. We did have a handout out in the public area. That's a fact sheet that FEMA put out, and it's also on our city website. This PowerPoint will be up on our city website by tomorrow morning also. That concludes my presentation.
Mr. Selage.
Yeah, well, I'm in support of moving ahead with this. I think it's great that our staff's taking a proactive position on this. You know, we've had these firm maps around for a long time, but until 2 years ago, when we were having problems on Balboa Island, we never challenged them. And we went ahead and went through this process, hired a consultant, and filed an appeal. And as a result, we were able to get the base flood elevation reduced by almost a foot, which had a good financial impact to our residents on Balboa Island. So when you look at these new firm maps and see how many properties are affected, it's certainly worth the time and the effort, the money to do the study, and if warranted, file the appeal. As staff said, FEMA typically uses a very generalized basis of analysis. They don't get very local in their analysis. They're like at a 3,000-foot level, and we just need to get down to a closer level on this and examine their assumptions and take a good hard look at the data and follow through appropriately on it. So I'm happy the staff's getting ahead of the curve on this and taking a proactive position.
Thank you. Mr. Piotr.
Thank you. Simone, can you explain, if we were to not do anything, what would happen? How would FIRM treat us, and what would be the net impact to our residents?
If we don't do anything, the base flood elevation will be set throughout the peninsula, where right now there's none. Once you've set a base flood elevation, you've created this flood zone on the peninsula for the kind of the inland of the peninsula on the harbor side. And now you have a base flood elevation set for the coastal side too, where before we didn't have anything impacting private property. Once the maps are in place, and if we do nothing, then those those lenders are going to require flood insurance for all those parcels. And we think there's at least over 3,000 properties affected by this new maps. That's for insurance. And then going forward with development, it severely restricts how development occurs throughout the island. New construction will have to be built at the base flood elevation, on the peninsula. New construction will have to be built at the base flood elevation, and then staff will have to analyze every single project that comes in for any remodels or additions based on a formula FEMA has published as far as meeting a 50% threshold. It will impact development as it has already on Balboa Island.
So even if someone's got an existing mortgage and this new map goes into place and all of a sudden they weren't in the floodplain but now they are, will that mortgagee or that mortgager require flood insurance, or is it only if they refinance or sell and there's a new mortgage put in place?
No, the lender will require the flood insurance even if they have an existing mortgage.
At least the Fannie Mae style ones. The jumbos may have separate type of requirements.
Correct.
So this affects everybody especially in the peninsula. Now, forget flood control and FEMA for a second. From a reality standpoint, we know we've had high tide events combined with high swell events or wave events as they're referred to here. And we haven't had nearly the problems that they're showing on the map. So did we just not have a very high event according to FEMA, or is FEMA just trying to get, like Mr. Selich and I were talking the other day, they're just trying to get more policy payers into their program because they need the money?
I agree. I think it's the latter. When we have not had a significant event, we know that the flood insurance program is insolvent. They're $25 billion in debt because of all the hurricane and storm activity on the East Coast. I agree with you. I think they're looking for more payers into the system.
And to carry it a little further, so I guess to conclude that thought first, so in effect, what we're going to be doing is we'll be hiring our own hydrologists to combat, and it's really a paper war, our calculations versus your calculations, because we know that reality on the ground, we really don't have much of a problem. We know we have a couple of seawall areas, and we put sand berms out there during storm season, but the reality is we don't have flooding issues, not especially like they're showing on the map. So that's a paper war, which I agree with Councilman Selich. I commend staff for taking a proactive approach to this thing. In fact, I would like to encourage us to look into even a more proactive approach. You and I talked about, Balboa Island. We've got a seawall that's existing around there. I know that part of our plan in looking at the seawall and the rehab and making sure that it's still up to speed is to put a cap on some of the walls that are a little on the low side. Assuming that we can get that cap at the right elevation for FEMA, could we actually bring Balboa Island out of the flood zone?
Yes, you're correct. FEMA looks at the seawalls around Balboa Island as a levee. There, to be considered as a levee, you need to have at least 2 feet of freeboard above the base flood elevation. So when we did our study, our revised flood insurance study, as Councilmember Selich stated, our still water elevation was 7.6. For insurance purposes, they raised it up to 8, to the nearest whole number.
They round up.
So 2 foot on top of the 7.6 will come out to a 9.6 seawall.
And I think one of the elevations we were looking at was a 9.5 foot level. But obviously, the residents are going to have to sign off. We're not intending to build a fortress around there. But I would like, and I know that's probably not part of this appeal period and this map. That would be a separate action, right?
That's correct.
But I would encourage staff to consider an analysis that would start that process going as well.
Okay.
Thank you.
Any other questions up here? I see none. Open it to the public. Please come forward.
Mayor Dixon and members of the council, my name is Jim Mosier. I have two comments. First is kind of the flip side of what Councilman Piotr was saying. My concern would be that if FEMA was correct and we have just been lucky the last few years, and I believe I've heard the city staff say that we have been lucky that we didn't have a storm on top of a king tide. If FEMA is correct and the people should be building cautiously, and perhaps they do need flood insurance, by doing this, are we disqualifying them from the opportunity to participate in the federal program, which would allow them to buy the insurance that they might need at a lower cost than some private insurer might provide to them? Second comment I wanted to make is if you look on the internet and search for the words UCI and coastal resiliency, you'll find that a week from this Thursday, July 21st, UC Irvine is hosting a all-day workshop on coastal resiliency, the response to increasing sea level and so forth. And on Thursday afternoon from 1:35 to 2:50 in the afternoon, they're going to be having a discussion from their flood rise group at UCI, and 4 of their oceanographers will be discussing mapping and communicating coastal flood risk at the local level, which seems very pertinent to this. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments? Please come forward.
My name is John Anderson. I'm a longtime resident of Corona Del Mar. And I don't know what to say about this rising sea level, because I know I've read in the paper that apparently we're doing some study along those lines for the levees around Balboa Island. I don't know how that ties into this, but I don't really care as long as you guys know what's going on. General plan safety element. There are some things that are changing somewhat along the coast. Will that be reflected in our general plan safety element, et cetera, et cetera? That's just a quick question for staff.
You want to answer that question?
Yeah,
Thank you.
Mayor Dixon, if we have information that needs to be incorporated into the general plan, we would take the appropriate steps to bring that forward to the City Council.
Got all the bases covered.
All right, thank you so much. Any other questions from the public? Please come forward.
Good afternoon, Jim Miller. I'm late, so I don't know what was presented by staff, but FEMA digitalized its maps a number of years ago, and they put a lot of people, a lot of residents of Newport Beach in the flood zone by error. If you look at the map, it shifted a little bit, and so the water becomes part of a residence like my own property, and therefore residents need to buy flood insurance. I was required to do that. I talked to the city of, well, first of all, I emailed FEMA, and they advised me I was right. Yeah, I have a letter back from them saying, yep, I'm right. But, yeah, but they really couldn't do anything. And I later learned they're under contract, all this other kind of stuff. When I was at the cultural festivities in the city of Irvine, I saw a big FEMA sign. So I went over to talk to them. This was a couple years ago. And really nice gentlemen, some of the top people from the city of Irvine were there. And they said, we're not from FEMA, but we know what you're talking about. They did it all over Southern California, including Irvine. So the city of Irvine took it upon themselves to right the wrong and corrected the map. And FEMA agreed they were wrong, and the city of Irvine was right. There's a gentleman at 24 Hour Fitness in Fountain Valley on Brookhurst who was mayor of either Cypress or Cerritos. And I was just talking to him one day. I didn't know he was mayor. What's he doing in this job, right? Former mayor. And he said he did the same thing. So my suggestion is, I don't know who looked at this. This looks like a preliminary flood insurance rate maps. So this is probably rates as opposed to the actual maps. I think the city needs to look at, talk to these people in Irvine. I've got their phone number and their card, hopefully still, and see what they did and see what they found. You know, the truth, the fact is a fact. It's either true or not. And, well, of course it's true. I mean, they're city officials with city official shirts on, and they were the top people at the city of Irvine. And they'd be happy to help the city of Newport Beach, they advised me. So I'm willing to find those cards, and if I don't find them, I'll talk to the city over there again, so that the residents of Newport Beach aren't being overcharged, aren't being charged at all. If the rates went up, and I forget when it was, it could have been 2011, the rates went up, and when I wrote to FEMA, I said, tell me something, why for the last 20 years I'm not in a flood zone, and now I am? Either answer that question, or well, actually the first question was, doesn't it look like you guys slipped the map a little bit when you put the overlay template on it? Anyways, Jim Miller, I'll give you my phone number if you'd like.
Thank you. Any other public comments? Please come forward. All right, bring it back to council. Oh, Mr. Selich, go ahead.
Yeah, Simone, on Balboa Island, in order to meet the code and our requirements with FEMA, if you want to build a new structure, you have to go, you have to raise your pad up about 42 inches, something of that height, to get up above the or equal to the base flood elevation. So if we were to accept the FEMA maps, just looking at your example out in West Newport, where we have a 13-foot wave height now, and they're going to 20 or 17 feet, does that mean then that we would have to change our codes, and then the new homes that get built out there that they'd have to have a 4 feet increase in where their pad starts?
Yes, that's absolutely correct. We'll have to update our codes and allow for that.
Okay, yeah, I think it's a pretty significant impact.
Any other questions? I have a couple comments, unless someone else has any other comment. Simone, as I understand it, and I support, first of all, let me just say thank you for bringing this to our attention at this point, and I support ultimate recommendation to proceed with the consultant study. As I've kind of dug into this issue, and you and I have talked, it's kind of the peanut butter approach that FEMA does, and it's really not unique necessarily just to our local mitigation, our own mitigation efforts and the investments we've made in seawalls and storm drains and all the infrastructure elements that we have done over the past many years, seawalls included. Is it my understanding that the FEMA studies do not take those kinds of mitigation efforts into consideration when they put together their preliminary study?
I can't speak for FEMA, but from reading the literature, they try to take into account items that are more of a permanent in nature. If they don't know about our infrastructure, if they don't know about our sand rehabilitation programs or beach rehab programs, they won't include it. Mm-hmm. So that's something that, from a staff's perspective, we have to go back and look at the data and make sure all that information is going to be in the modeling, in the analysis. And then we got to prove to FEMA that we are correct.
Well, and I support hiring the consultant. I support developing the data that is unique to Newport Beach that will support the correct facts as they will be. And because this will have if we don't do this, the data that FEMA is advancing regarding insurance rates and such will have a severe cost impact, not only to our residents in terms of insurance costs, but in terms of their property values. And I guess it's not beyond the realm of possibility, if we were to just go along with FEMA's data, that we'd see homes out on the peninsula built on stilts.
That's correct.
I mean, that's not really a joke. I mean, that's true. So given that the peninsula is an area that I care very much about, of course, I, for one, am supportive of staff moving forward. I hope we do this expeditiously, obviously, because of the first quarter 2017 time period, that they'll need that feedback. So does that match the schedule that you're on to get a return on that?
Yes.
All right. Seeing no other questions, I want to thank you very much. And I guess thank you for some very important information that we can defend ourselves against the federal government. So thank you. Item number 4.
Give us a moment, Madam Mayor, to change the presentation chair.
So this is the solid waste franchise agreement for commercial and construction demolition waste. Mr. Pisani, thank you.
Yes, Mayor Dixon, members of the council. Mike Pisani, Municipal Operations Director. We're going to talk about a few things today. I'm going to give an overview on solid waste franchises, what's working well and what could be improved with our system, some new laws affecting solid waste services, and finally I'm going to talk about a different type of franchise system that we might want to look at in the future. It should be noted that I'm only going to talk about commercial, industrial, and demolition waste, not residential this afternoon, except for larger multifamily complexes that use commercial trash services. Our current collection system is a non-exclusive franchise system. We've had it in place for almost 20 years, since 1997. The current franchises were issued between 2007 and 2015, and all have an end date of March 1 of next year. We currently have 33 haulers, as the council is well aware. 8 of those companies collect commercial bins on a regular schedule to essentially restaurants, businesses, schools, office buildings. The remaining 25 are basically roll-off and demolition contractors that perform work at specific locations, more on-call services with either roll-off trucks or in dumps doing demolition work with remodels. And about 50% of those 33 haulers are active every quarter. Some of the in-dump contractors might only do 1 or 2 jobs a year. What's it mean to be a franchised hauler? Well, franchise haulers are required to recycle 55% of all the material they collect, and they pay the city franchise fees totaling 16% of their revenues within the city. 10.5% of that goes to the general fund, and the remaining 5.5% goes to the environmental liability fund. And that amount totals over $1.6 million each year. I think one of the things we need to look at and give an update, we do have state waste reduction mandates. Our goal that CalRecycle gives us is to place in landfills no more than 9.6 pounds per person per day. It's based on population and does take into effect tourism and the amount of business in the city. In 2014, which is the most recent numbers, our number was 6.7 pounds per person per day. So we're well under our state goal, and that still equates to over 107,000 tons of trash that we put in landfills every year. Just for a historical perspective, in 2009, during the recession, we were down to 5.5 pounds per person per day. And our disposal peaked in 2007 at 7.8 pounds per person per day. So what are the benefits from our current system? First off, open competition. Businesses can shop around and find a hauler that best provides for their needs at the lowest cost. And franchised haulers in any Orange County city are required to dump trash in county landfills, and in return for that, they receive a preferred rate for doing so, $32, $36 a ton versus almost $57 a ton. So that lowers the cost for the customer. We have a few downsides to our current system. First, we've heard the complaints in the past. Multiple trucks in confined areas such as Balboa Island, Balboa Peninsula, Newport Pier area, and the Coast Highway alleys in Corona Del Mar. And the administrative workload in tracking and verifying the activities of 33 haulers for state reporting, which I'll go into in a little more detail. Since 2012, commercial businesses that generate over 4 cubic yards of waste a week, which is a little over 1 commercial bin, and multifamily complexes of 5 or more units have been required to have a recycling program in place. Most haulers meet this requirement by processing trash at materials recovery facilities, MRFs. Starting last year, the state required, CalRecycle required cities to document how the mandatory recycling requirement is met at each business in the jurisdiction. While haulers are required to furnish us the data, it is a large amount of work for staff to compile the data from multiple haulers, ensure it's complete, and format it for submission to the state. The newest challenge for solid waste handling statewide, everybody's getting up to speed right now, is organics diversion. As of April 1, businesses generating over 8 cubic yards of organic trash a week must have a recycling program in place for this waste stream. Organic waste is food waste, green waste, landscape waste, wood waste, or food-soaked paper. It's estimated that up to 40% of the waste stream consists of this organic waste. Businesses in the city at this fairly high level of generation of organics waste, 8 cubic yards a week, include full-service hotels, large restaurants, golf courses, grocery stores, and Hoag Hospital. We've been since last fall, we've been working with these businesses, informing them of the law and seeking compliance, and with the haulers. As of January 1 of next year, businesses generating 4 cubic yards of organic waste per week will have to have a program in place. This will include most, if not all, of the 400 plus restaurants in the city. What does this mean? Probably going to mean that each restaurant will have to have separate containers, both in the kitchen and out with the trash container areas, and separate pickups for food waste. More frequent pickups due to the weight of the material in smaller containers, and potential vector and odor concerns. And more pickups generally equal higher refuse costs for businesses. Important to note again, this is a statewide mandate. It is happening in every city in the state, and the California Restaurant Association, who is going to be, restaurants going to be fairly hard hit by this rule, is working with restaurants and things, and doing articles and kind of explaining it. Unfortunately, the solid waste industry is still developing ways to deal with this waste stream. Some of the processes include reuse, such as through Waste Not OC, who gave a presentation a month or two ago about donating food to food pantries and homeless shelters. And anaerobic digestion, which uses the materials to produce biogas, which can generate power or fuel CNG vehicles. Lastly, mulching is still a preferable low-cost diversion process for segregated landscape waste from, for instance, golf courses, landscape operations. So what does all this mean for city staff, haulers, and businesses? Most importantly, state regulations are going to continue to change, and the city staff is going to be required to ensure the programs are being implemented. Solid waste firms will have to invest in equipment and technology to process these waste streams. And all this will lead to additional expense in waste hauling. Haulers will also need to educate their customers to ensure participation in these programs. Additionally, the city will have to spend more efforts to ensure multifamily complexes and businesses have the required recycling programs in place. We are Cal Recycle's enforcement arm, kind of their garbage cop, and as much as we are held to a standard for the reduction of the level of trash going to landfills within the city, we also are held responsible for ensuring that public education goals are met, even if it's the hauler's responsibility, and these programs are in place at every business or multifamily residence. And finally, we will have to make sure our refuse ordinance has the tools to enforce state law. We need to review and make sure it meets as definitions for newer requirements. So I've discussed the franchise system and the current waste collection environment. Now we'll talk about the future. Non-exclusive franchises have been used throughout the state, but many cities are moving back towards exclusive franchises, more limited, more closed systems. Cities have made this change, discuss some of the same challenges that we have. Multiple trucks in confined areas, difficulties in managing multiple haulers, and continuing to have to meet new state regulations. In 2011, the city of Los Angeles gave all haulers a notice that they plan to move to an exclusive franchise system. They divided the city of Los Angeles into 11 districts, and soon each will have a separate franchisee. Some of the districts with as many as 9,000 accounts. This will be implemented by the middle of next year. In the next 3 or 4 months, they will name the companies that are getting these franchises so they can start to plan. This is an option we may want to do in the future in Newport Beach. Another option is to consider creating more of a hybrid system where the city would issue 1 or 2 exclusive franchises for specific areas that would solve the issues of multiple vehicles in confined areas while leaving more wide open areas open to more competition. Here's a map showing what that might look like with the peninsula, Newport Pier area, Balboa area, up through Newport Shores, all is one district. Second district being Balboa Island and a CDM area. And then the remaining part of the city, District 3, has an open competition area. So, Newport Center, West Newport, airport area, could have open competition like we have today. State law, however, says you need to give a 5-year notice to refuse haulers to reduce the number of franchises when they've had open franchises. Consequently, if we decided to move to this kind of direction, the soonest it would occur would be 2021. But let me add that giving this notice, if we were to do it now, doesn't mean we have to go to a system like this in 5 years. It just gives us the ability to do that if city staff and the council at that time believe it's the way to go. Without giving the franchisees notice, now we lose this tool for the future. So what do we need to work on? Staff's action items over the next 6 to 9 months are to continue to educate the public and work with haulers on the organics requirements and ensure haulers are providing the necessary services, particularly with the January 1 requirement for restaurants. Review city ordinances in light of new state requirements, and if deemed necessary, return to council to update them, and to work on the plan and process for renewing the solid waste franchises next March, prior to next March. We're spending a lot of attention on trash. So my final slide is seeking council direction, whether or not you think it's appropriate to issue the 5-year notices to haulers to limit franchises. Now, understanding that we have the ability to decide later on to stay with a current open system, but just having the option in 2021 if we feel it's necessary to reduce the number of franchisees.
So, Madam Mayor, if you feel comfortable or your colleagues offering any thoughts on that, that's helpful to us.
All right. Do we have any speakers? Mr. Selich.
Yeah, I'm not in favor of going to an exclusive system. I have apartment properties in cities with exclusive systems on it, and I spend a lot more money on trash than I should have to. I've actually had to go to the extent, I never knew that people like this existed, but I have a trash consultant that moves my bins around all the time and does all kinds of stuff because of the service I get from these exclusive haulers. And when you have an open system, you have competition, and the people that provide the best service at the best price are the ones that come in and do a good job on it. In fact, it gets so limited that my complexes are big enough that I could afford to hire my own truck and haul the trash to the dump, and I'm limited to do that. I can't even do that. So I think I think we should stick with the system that we have. I had another thought, but I've lost it. I'll come back to it.
Okay. Mr. Curry.
Well, I agree with Mr. Selich. This idea has been floated from time to time over the years, and now it's here in the dressed up with additional state regulation changes as a justification for it, which frankly really don't apply because we don't have 33 franchises picking up commercial waste and food waste. We have about 8, according to the earlier slide. The majority of our haulers pick up construction site waste on a limited temporary basis while construction's going on. And I agree with Mr. Selich to limit that. If you're the franchisee that gets the lucky award, you've been benefited and now you've got a monopoly and you can raise your prices. But if you're one of the 7 that are going to get cut out, or 25 that get cut out, you've lost the ability to compete in our city, and that's going to drive up prices for our businesses and our commercial areas. And so I have not supported this in the previous times it's been floated, and I don't support it now.
Any other comments from the council?
Yeah, me.
Oh, there you are. I didn't know if it was.
I remembered what I was going to say. This came up a number of years ago, and this idea that we're having big problems in the alleys in Corona Del Mar, Balboa Island, out in the peninsula. So I just started taking the time, going out and doing my own observations. I really haven't observed any problems. The people that complain to me about it, it just so happens that they hit an alley at the wrong time and there's a trash truck there. Well, heck, it could just as easily be a delivery truck or a moving van or whatever. So I'm just not buying into the argument that having multiple trash franchises are causing congestions in our alleys.
I have a question about the new state regulations. Why is it the city's responsibility to update everybody on the requirements? Is each city implementing it differently? I mean, they're state regulations.
No, it's more the city's responsibility to make sure the regulations are being carried out.
Sure, okay.
And a big part of when the state visits and evaluates us every year is whether or not we have the data and the results that there are these recycling services at every property. And the public information that each hauler is handing out, we're supposed to track and have records of, and to make sure that by law, a hauler has to give a recycling brochure to every business each year. So it's up to us to verify the haulers are doing what's also required on their end.
So in terms of the increased burden on staff, so the 33 or however many active haulers there are, so do you see that as a significant increase in staff burden to administer the new regulations?
Yeah, it has been the last 2 years when they've changed some of the rules to hold cities more accountable. We spend a lot of time tracking down information from haulers and making sure we get it so we can forward it to the state.
Okay, any other questions up here? Mr. Mayor Pro Tem?
Just want to chime in, keep it as is, please. Thanks.
Any other comments? Let's put it out to the public. Would you please come forward if you have a comment?
Mayor Dixon and members of the council, my name is Jim Mosier. I had 3 comments about this. First one, something not always common for study sessions. We had a written report available in advance of the study session, and I just wanted to say I thought this was unusually excellent. I found it very clear and concise.
It's a red letter day.
Answer. But that said, in the abstract, in the second sentence, it says that the city has had its current open, non-exclusive franchise system since 1997. That begs the question of what we did before 1997 that might illuminate what we wanted to do in the future. Second comment, that the last sentence of the abstract says that the residential waste hauling is provided by a single hauler, CR&R. Mike corrected that in the oral comment to say that multifamily residential complexes have the commercial hauling, but I tried looking at the municipal code, and it was totally unclear to me when, how, or by whom we decide if a multifamily residential complex qualifies for the curbside CR&R collection, or if they have to privately have commercial collection. I do not know what the answer to that is. And I also could not tell if a commercial operation that has a very small amount of waste would ever qualify for using our CR&R residential contract, which might also solve some of the problems we're talking about. And then the final comment, which is off the topic of this, if the commercial haulers are going to have to abide by this new organic standard within the next year or so, clearly that's eventually going to affect the residential collection, and people are going to have to separate organics or something. And I'm curious to know when that is going to come into effect or impact the residents of this city. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comments? Please come forward. Seeing none, I'll bring it back up here. Mr. Piotr.
You're looking for everybody's comment. I agree. Let's keep it open and competitive.
Any other comments? I'll agree with that. I would like to say I think that there needs to be some improvement, or not suggesting anything. I mean, going forward in terms of if we're going to manage 33 different companies, how we can reduce the burden on staff and their management and compliance efforts. So I guess as you renew these contracts, if we come up with some kind of a system that would reduce the burden on staff, if that's possible. Maybe you've thought of everything, but maybe there's something else to think about. Seeing no further comments, so I agree, let's keep it competitive, but let's remind them of being courteous to our neighbors in those tight alleyways. Mr. Kiff, was there anything else you were looking for from us?
No, thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Pisani.
So, George, you got 5 minutes on the next one. Just 5.
This is the smart utility application we've all been waiting for. Mr. Murdoch.
So we will make this quick. I'll say approximately a year ago, our customers were asking us for additional information so they could watch their water use because the only information they received is on their utility bill, which they got about every other month. IT division, specifically Avery McGlinty, did a great job, created a website, and customers have been using it, and it's been working great. However, as we roll out the utility billing portion of the ERP, we're going to lose that ability to provide that to our customers. But fear not, we have a solution. I have a 30-second video, though 5 minutes, to show you an introduction. Then I'm going to hand it over. Apparently a warning. Then I'm going to hand it over to Harman Sandhu of Smart Utility Systems to go through this very quickly about what Smart Utility Systems does.
Newport Beach Water proudly presents the My Water mobile app. Communicate and conserve with Newport Beach Water, all from the convenience of your mobile device. My Water provides up-to-date water usage and allows for seamless communication with your water utility. Experience a water outage? Report and view water outages in an instant. You could even participate in conservation programs to reduce your water footprint. And here's the best part. It's free. Download today.
So this is one of the things that we'll put on our city website. We have a couple other videos that will show folks. If I could get out of this thing, it would be great. That'll show folks how to log in and such. So we have those already. But with that, I'll hand it over to Harman, and he can tell you a little bit about the system and what SUS is.
Thank you, Mayor, and the members of the council to give us the opportunity to present. We have a few slides, so we'll make it quick. I represent Smart Utility Systems. We are a cloud technology company locally based here in Orange County. And we help utilities across the country and internationally in customer engagement efforts. And we deliver software, which is a mobile app, similar to what you saw in the video, and also web portals to reduce cost for the utility and improve the customer convenience as they engage with the water utility from the city standpoint. We have successfully delivered the first phase, so we'll get into some of the details on how that is. But before I go there, I want to commend the Municipal Operations Department for their leadership and initiative. This is one of the leading platforms in this industry. From a water and electric utility standpoint, this is some of the cutting-edge ideas being brought to the city. I have one of the examples from our previous project here, City of Glendale, that was recognized recently by California Municipal Utilities Association for having the best mobile interaction available for their citizens. And the product, the software product that we are delivering here is similar and actually in some ways more advanced. So we are bringing some of the cutting edge technology and processes in this area. In terms of the capabilities, the mobile app and a web portal is available now, and municipal operations team is in actually the process of launching it publicly. Already the customers within the city, they can see the real-time view of their usage. They can do comparisons. Going back to 2 years ago, based on the governor's order, there were mandates up until now for mandatory reduction in your water use, and moving forward, some of those thresholds are going to change. And so all of that information will be made available real time on the mobile device for the citizens to see. There is also information around rebates, incentives, what is it that you can do to reduce and manage water use. And lastly, there is a two-way communication. So if somebody has they want to report water waste or any type of leak or outage or service-related matters, they can use the mobile or the portal to interact with the city. There are future capabilities planned within the same platform around billing and payments, some of which we're planning to launch later this year. As part of the billing initiative that the city has undertaken. And that'll come in Q4 2016, where the residents can pay their bills, look at their balance due account information on the mobile devices, and be able to do that real time. As I mentioned, the portal and the mobile app is already available. In fact, you can search in the Apple or Google Android Play stores. You can search for My Water NB and download the app. It's ready to go. In addition to that, there are a number of things that we are going to do as part of this program to increase adoption and do the customer outreach. There are 3 areas we are targeting, particularly community awareness, direct customer communications, and public announcements. We already have a launch plan in place. We will be sending out formal invitation letters to create awareness and postcards to 26,000 resident account holders. In addition to that, of course, there will be web page announcements, signage, and then within the Municipal Operations Department team, there's a lot of internal activities around banners and campaigns to create awareness of this digital channel so we can increase awareness amongst the customers. We are working to finalize some of these artifacts over the next 2 weeks, and this should actually go out as early as August. All right, that should conclude the slides. We try to keep it within 5 minutes. I'll open for questions.
So I wanted to mention one other thing. So with this platform as well, there's a city-facing portal. So it gives city staff the ability to do analytics. So who's the highest user, who's the lowest, what are the average usage. So it gives us an analytical tool that we don't currently have. So we don't have time to get into that. But we're really excited to launch this. We know that our customers will find it easy. Most everybody has a smartphone. They'll be able to get to access to their data quickly. So with that, we'll wrap it up unless there's any questions.
Mr. Selich.
Yeah. What does real time mean? What is it by the hour, by the day, by the week?
So about a year ago, if you recall, we were doing just bi-monthly readings. We switched that to monthly readings. So for the majority of the customers in Newport Beach, we're doing monthly readings So we only display monthly data. We have 2 pilot projects that are real data, which is the radio system and the cellular system. We have around 200 residential customers that we're testing now for real-time, meaning up to the minute. We have over 1,000 AMR, meaning data that we can extract from our commercial users, where we can go out and extract the data from the meters. But right now, really, I mean, realistically, it's a monthly read that we can provide now.
Okay. Well, as you know, I'm one of the guinea pigs on the real-time system, and I think it's terrific. I mean, it's really allowed us to analyze our water usage, and you know, I know how much water our washing machine uses now, and my wife has convinced me to buy new ones, so good for her. But we'll use less water. And you know, you're really able to analyze your water usage because the system that you have me on, we're getting the data by the hour. So I see how many gallons per hour I'm using, so I know when we're taking showers, using the dishwasher, the washing machine. You can see if you've got leaky toilets, if when you're not doing anything, you've got a little bit of water running. So I'd encourage us to continue doing this and moving towards a real-time system, because if you really want people to conserve, you've got to make it easy for them to do it. They're not going to go out and lift the lids on their water meter and watch the dial turn around.
Which is what you were doing prior.
That's what I was doing. Yeah.
Good for
Thanks.
you. Any other council comments? Seeing none, public, please come forward.
Mayor Dixon and members of the council, my name again is Jim Mosher, and continuing in the complimentary mode, I wanted to mention that our city's water conservation efforts are spread over a number of city departments, not just the Water Utility Division, who you're hearing from now, but also Public Works and the Code Enforcement section of the Community Development Department. In that connection, I wanted to mention that within Public Works, Shane Berkeley has recently posted an excellent, what he calls 2015 through 2016 Conservation and Water Quality Programs Report that is, I think, also very well written and gives an excellent summary of how all the different efforts tie together, including this application. And those who might want to see it, you can find it under Departments, Public Works, and look under Water Conservation. There's a series of reports. It's the second of them. I had not seen it until preparing for this meeting. Thank you.
Well, thank you for letting us know that. Any other comments from the public? Please come forward. All right, we'll come back to the council. Any comments up here? I have one question. Now, we have the app that's My NB, and now this is a separate app. Obviously, is there any opportunity to link them, or is there any value, or we'll just, as we go forward, we'll have, as we become more technologically efficient?
Well, the MyWater NB is the web address, but it links to the same data as the app that you download. So you can get it online on a browser, or you can download the app.
But then My Newport Beach app that we also have, that has general information about the city and how you could call in problems and such. So they are separate apps.
They are separate applications, yes.
Yeah, I could see that. Okay, thank you very much. It's exciting. I've just downloaded it sitting here, but I don't remember my password, so I've got to remember that at another time. But anyway, thank you very much. That's exciting. Thank you for bringing us into the 21st century. Thank you. All right. Madam Clerk.
Public comments are invited on agenda and non-agenda items. Speakers are limited to 3 minutes.
Mayor Dixon and members of the council, my name is Jim Mosher. My non-agenda comments are actually about the agenda. I first wanted to notice that on the cover of the agenda it says closed session canceled, and I wanted to observe that this is the 4th consecutive city council meeting at which there has been no closed session, and I think that that probably is a very good trend for the city. Perhaps means we have less litigation than we have, unless it means that the city staff has found some way to communicate it and get direction from the council outside of the noticed public meetings. The other comment I wanted to make is I don't want to be uncomplimentary about anybody, but and I'm not totally sure how the city council gets access to the agenda, but you may or may not be aware that the public who did not download the staff reports and so forth by Friday night, and they only come out Thursday night, found our current web application, which we call Granicus or Legistar, was non-functioning over the weekend. You could see the agenda, the items, but if you clicked to see a staff report, it was not functioning until actually this morning. So it was kind of out for the 4 days before the meeting. Kind of inconvenient to the public. I'm sure that will be cleared up, but the whole system, as you may or may not have heard from other members of the public, is a little confusing because prior to the meeting, that's where you look for the staff report, and then you go back looking for it after the meeting. You find that because of the odd way and legacy of how we have done things, all the staff reports get moved to a different location. So you go back trying to review what happened at the council meeting, and everything has disappeared, been archived to a different location. I think all of that perhaps needs some review, how it works, how it could work better, and perhaps be redesigned with some public input to it, because it is the public that it's trying to serve. And over this last weekend, it didn't serve the public too well. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comments? I do know from Ms. City Clerk that there was a system-wide problem with Granicus. Every municipal or
Correct.
government.
Yeah, the whole system was down for every city that they had.
Okay. All right. Well, we are now going to recess, and we will reconvene at 7 p.m. Thank you.
Mayor, it's 7 o'clock.
Let the clock slow up there. All
According
right.
to the
What?
computers.
What? It is?
Yeah, according to the computer.
All right. Please have a seat. The regular meeting of the Newport Beach City Council is called to order for July 12, 2016. Madam Clerk.
The record will reflect that Councilmember Duffield has an excused absence.
Thank you. Would you all please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance led by Councilmember Petros, followed by the invocation by Councilmember Curry.
Please join me in a pledge to the flag of this great nation. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please join me in an attitude of prayer. Our Father and God, we, your children, come before you tonight as a grieving nation. We ask that you would commend the spirits of those officers in Dallas, and that you would comfort their families, and that you would move across our land and bring us together as a people. Give us the ability to walk in each other's shoes. Lord, for tonight, for this council, we ask for your wisdom, for your humility, for your compassion, and for your grace in the decisions that we make, that they would always be just. In your name we pray. Amen.
Madam Clerk.
Notice to the public. The city provides a yellow sign-in card to assist in the preparation of the minutes. The completion of the card is not required in order to address the city council. If the optional sign-in card has been completed, it should be placed in the box provided at the podium. The City Council of Newport Beach welcomes and encourages community participation. Public comments are generally limited to 3 minutes per person to allow everyone to speak. Written comments are encouraged as well. The City Council has a discretion to extend or shorten the time limit on agenda or non-agenda items. As a courtesy, please turn cell phones off or set them in the silent mode. Now is the time for City Council announcements.
Mr. Petros. Mr. Curry. Mr. Selich.
I have none.
Mr. Piotr. Mayor Pro Tem.
Is that announcement or future
Pardon me?
agenda? Is the announcements or future agenda?
Well, either one.
So I wanted to briefly mention something. In our community, truth matters, and someone wrote a commentary over the weekend stating, making factual misstatements. So I just wanted to quickly ask the city attorney about the cost of the Civic Center audit. What was the actual cost authorized?
So 352,000. I think 920 was what was authorized.
And what was the actual cost billed to date?
And to date, $260,000 has been billed.
So someone, Mr. Phil Greer, made a statement that it was roughly $500,000. And this sort of statement, whether it's willingly or negligently, I think is inappropriate to mislead the public about the actual cost. He roughly inflated it almost 2 times. I'm not sure how best to approach this. I'll reach out to Daily Pilot, let them know they can contact the city attorneys for accurate information about the audit. Thank you.
Thank you. And then I just have a few comments, just announcements. We've been through another wonderful July 4th in our community, and I just want to extend thanks to our community members, our volunteers, our Recreation and Senior Services Department members for just a fantastic day. I participated in 2 parades on Balboa Peninsula and Mariners, both fantastic community events. So I'm very appreciative for the fun had by all. It was a beautiful day. I do have a few announcements of some exciting events going on in our library. Just winding up is Aging as Art. That's good to know. So that photographic exposition is on for the next few days through July 15th at the Central Library. And all of our libraries, branch libraries included, Read for the Win summer reading program, and that's ongoing right now. Summer reading program open to all children, teens, and adults. So please look into that. Really exciting news about our concerts on the Green that you'll be hearing a lot more communicated about. The first one being July 31st, Hollywood Stones. Is that, I think I can read my writing. And really exciting on August 14th, for the first time ever, the Pacific Symphony will be performing out on the Green. So that is really going to be a fantastic event in August 21st and September 11th. So the public will be hearing more announcements, but please mark all these dates because they are a fantastic event. And also, I just want to say again, thank you to our Newport Beach Fire Department and Lifeguard Services for the wonderful event for the unveiling of the Ben Carlson statue at Newport Pier a week ago, and thanks to the Ben Carlson Foundation and Scholarship Fund, Memorial Foundation and Scholarship Fund for the wonderful fundraising that they did to provide for this magnificent, beautiful statue. It's been in the papers. I'm sure many people have seen it. If you have not, it's certainly worth a trip down to Newport Pier. The statue itself is beautiful. The setting, the landscaping, the hardscape is beautiful. So we're very grateful to the Jans and Carlson families for their hard work to provide that for our recognition of the importance of water safety, life safety in our community and at our beaches. And I think that's it for my announcements. Madam Clerk.
This is the time in which council members may pull items from the consent calendar for discussion. Those are items 1 through 9. Public comments are invited on consent calendar for members of the audience. Speakers must limit comments to 3 minutes. Before speaking, please state your name for the record. If any item is removed from the consent calendar by a council member, members of the public are invited to speak on each of those items for up to 3 minutes per item. All matters listed under consent calendar are considered to be routine and will all be enacted by one motion in the form listed below. Council members have received detailed staff reports on each of the items recommending an action. There will be no separate discussion of these items prior to the time the City Council votes on the motion unless members of the City Council request specific items to be discussed and or removed from the consent calendar for separate action.
All right, I'll ask the council, starting with Mr. Petros, any items to pull? Mr. Curry? Mr. Selich?
I have none.
Mr. Piotr? None. Mayor Pro Tem Muldoon?
None.
All right, so are there any public comments on the consent calendar? Seeing none? Okay, may we have a motion?
Yes. Move the balance of the consent calendar, items 1 through 9, with clarifications on items 3, 4, and 8.
Second.
Do we have a vote?
The motion carries unanimously, 6-0, and I also need to read the titles for items 3 and 4. 2016-11, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Newport Beach, amending Newport Beach Municipal Code, Chapter 5.20, entitled Pawnbrokers, Second-Hand Dealers, and Junk Dealers, and ordinance number 2016-11, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Newport Beach, amending the stakeholder business structure and annual assessments levied for the Newport Beach Restaurant Association Business Improvement District.
Okay, thank you. Madam Clerk.
Public comments on non-agenda items. Public comments are invited on non-agenda items generally considered to be within the subject matter jurisdiction of the City Council. Speakers must limit comments to 3 minutes. Before speaking, please state your name for the record.
Any public comments, please come forward.
Mayor Dixon, council members, my name is Susan Halton. I'm a fairly new resident of Newport Beach, California. I've been here 8 years. My husband and I were lucky enough to retire here. And recently my children and grandchildren moved to Private Road, which is a small cul-de-sac off of Irvine Boulevard. I'm a grandmother and I transport my 2 granddaughters several times a week into and out of this cul-de-sac. As you're exiting this cul-de-sac of Private Road and you are looking left in order to make a safe turn going right, which is southbound on Irvine Boulevard, it is absolutely a blind corner. You cannot see. I'm scared to death for my life, for my children's life. I've already lost a granddaughter. I don't want to lose another one. And I am begging the council members to go out and drive into Private Road and exit out onto Irvine Boulevard, exit right. You cannot see. And I tell you that there's been 35 accidents there in the last 10 years, none of which that I know are fatal accidents, but I am telling you it is only a matter of time. And I've been in touch with the police department. I've been in touch with road engineering, Brad Summers in particular. They both have been amazing to me. And I know that the road department has been out there and has assessed this problem and this issue. I am asking for some resolve, maybe a flashing yellow beacon as you approach private road going south, to at least alert people to slow down. Maybe that would help. But my kids have only been there since February, and I'm telling you, 2 times for me since February, I have had blaring horns and people on my tail end. And it is only a matter of time. I'm a retired public health nurse, and someone needs to get out there and do something about this. Brad assures me that the road will be repaved and restriped, thus moving the lines, the traffic barriers out a little bit from the curb. Those of us who exit private road, looking does not help. You just get there, and if there's not a car there, you hit the accelerator and go as fast as you can to the right to get out of there. And it's just been lucky that no one's been killed at that corner. I don't know what else to do. I just ask all of you if you would just take some time this week to just go in, drive into private road, I'm saying public road, private road, and exit that. I would really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you for coming forward. Mr. Kiff, can we, or Mr. Webb, do you want to comment about what we can do?
Yes, actually, we are looking at this, and if you're familiar with that, when the original track was built, there's a parcel right at the end there with a large retaining wall, and it blocks visibility. The speed limit on that road is 35 purposely to keep the speeds down, the visibility up. We do have fast traffic that moves through that. We're looking at if you were successful in awarding our project tonight for repaving Irvine, we'll probably include a flashing speed line in it. The road already has a flashing beacon on it with a curve ahead and also an intersection ahead. So it's got all the traffic markers, but again, people drive the road very fast. As Susan mentioned, it's part of our design when we saw this originally. We are trying to move the stripes out a little bit. We have a little room to push the road out towards the bay, which gives a little more visibility. So we're looking at it, but we're also limited on what we can do because there's a physical building built, again, with a large retaining wall that blocks long-term visibility.
Well, thank you for giving it that attention. Thank you, ma'am. Any other public comments on non-agenda items?
Mayor Dixon and members of the council, my name is Jim Mosier. As you know, from my written comments, I happen to live on private road, which it turns out, despite its name, is a very public road, just like any other in the city. I had not met Susan until just a few minutes ago before the meeting, but I would like to second her comments. I have lived there for nearly 40 years, and I actually live in one of the houses that is supported by that retaining wall, looking out over Irvine Avenue. And you may wonder why I come to city meetings by bicycle, and the reason is I feel a lot more comfortable going out of that road on a bicycle, which I can turn onto the sidewalk somewhat illegally, rather than in a car, which I would have to drive out into the traffic, never knowing if there is a car coming at 60 miles an hour or not. And although the solution of a flashing beacon sounds reasonable, I think the much better solution would be if the city was willing to install on the public property a mirror so that the residents coming out or the public coming out could tell for sure if there was a car coming. Because even if there's a beacon, you don't know that somebody is paying attention to the beacon or honoring that or slowing down. I understand the city staff is not thinking favorably of a mirror because perhaps there'd be some liability for the city. Perhaps people would just be deceived how close a car is to them. But at least at times it would give the residents the confidence of knowing that there is no car at all coming, which you currently have no way in the world of knowing. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comments, please come forward on non-agenda items. All right, seeing none. Oral reports from City Council on committee activities. Mr. Petros. Oh, please come forward.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. My name is Hart Warner on Grand Canal 119, and we have concerns about encroachment We've been there since 1984, and the house is 1933 vintage, and we are encroaching about 36 inches into the city property. Now, our patio's been there for a number of years, most likely since 1933, and we do have existing pictures and everything. So we'd like to ask the city to consider grandfathering not only ours, but the entire 100 block of Grand Canal. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. All right, so oral reports from City Council on, do you want to comment on that?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. I've been having discussions with Hart and our city staff on it, so hopefully we'll bring this up to the council pretty soon so we can get this resolved. I know he's trying to do some remodeling on his house, so I'd like to see us get it resolved one way or the other as soon as possible.
I think it's coming to you in August.
It could. We're meeting with them right now. They're looking to waive council policy. We'd have to bring that to you for your discussion on that. So that's in the process. I don't have a date yet, but it could be the first part of August.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you. No other comments? All right, now we'll have oral reports. Mr. Petros. Mr. Curry. Mr. Selich.
I have none.
Mr. Piotr. Mayor Pro Tem. Okay. Now we will proceed to public hearings. Item number 10, resolution to declare a level 2 water supply shortage. Mr. Murdoch.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. At the last meeting, you adopted by resolution your intent to lower the water restrictions from a level 3 to a level 2. The municipal code now asks that we conduct a public hearing to get input from the public. Essentially, a level 2 reduces the mandatory restrictions of 25% down to 15%. It adds an additional watering day during the summer months. But the permanent restrictions remain in place. So the hosing of off of the sidewalks with drinking water, washing your car without a nozzle, and those they all remain the same as in a level 3. So the changes really are just a reduction in the mandatory level, and add a couple of things like you can fill a pool up to 6 inches a week versus 3 inches a week. You can fix leaks over a 48-hour period versus 24. So some slight changes, but really it's the reduction. So tonight, if with your permission, we could conduct the public hearing, and if you have no objections to that, you could approve a level 2. It would take effect on the 10th day. There are current restrictions in place with the level 3, so it doesn't mean you have 10-day window of no restrictions. But if you adopt this, then on the 10th day, we'd be notifying folks of the new watering days, of course, before any enforcement. So with that.
All right. Any comments first from the council? Seeing none, we'll go to the public. If you would like to speak, please come forward.
Mayor Dixon and members of the council, my name again is Jim Mosier. I believe if you read the resolution, it sounds from it as if the city is imposing new restrictions. But as Mr. Murdoch said, it's actually relaxing restrictions, which is probably good. There is some confusion, though, about how much they should be relaxed, because at your last meeting, you not only adopted your resolution of intent to do this tonight, but you also adopted something called the 2015 Urban Water Management Plan for Newport Beach, which has to do with whether we have adequate supplies or not. And those who read that will realize the bottom line from that report is when EIRs, environmental impact reports for new development, come along, George is going to be obligated to tell the public and the developers that we have no problem with our water supply. You want to build 1,000 houses, our water supplying agencies say that we have enough water to supply them. You want to build 2,000, you want to build 5,000, doesn't matter. Whatever you want, they claim that they have enough water. I don't believe that's a realistic picture. I think the city is doing the right thing here, but I think there's a lot of frustration about that. I think George has some frustration about that, and I think if you see the written comments, which I saw in the lobby, I think many members of the public have frustration with that. I think our water supply in Orange County is obviously not unlimited. our groundwater would not last us forever. If we have a drought for 100 years, we have a serious water problem, and I think the conservation is wise and merited. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comments? Please come forward. Seeing none. Mr. Piotr, bring it back here.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. George, Mr. Mosher brings up some good comments. We've got a lot of written comments about people that are, taking shorter showers. They're taking their Navy showers and watering on 1 day a week and doing all these things, and yet they see, 500 new apartments going up at San Joaquin Hills Road and Jamboree. Can you explain the timing, how it works, and how allocations work as far as the state's concerned?
So currently, the state has asked all water agencies in California to self-certify based on a long-term 3-year, if they had enough water supply to meet 3 years continued drought. The wholesale agencies, you have to remember that we buy all our water from either the Metropolitan Water District or from the Orange County Water District through their groundwater supplies. Those agencies tell us how much water is available, and they are saying that there is water available to meet those demands. However, that would deplete our groundwater basin and all the reservoir supplies in Northern California. We think as long as the state has mandated emergency orders, the governor's order is still in effect, that we need to continue with conservation to leave some of those supplies still intact. So at the end of 3 years, essentially, if we just called off the drought and said, do what you want to do, we could deplete most of the water supply that we have, which isn't a good way to manage a water system. As far as development, so you did touch on a few things. There are good things about new developments where we're tearing down these old inefficient homes and putting in real efficient. The San Joaquin apartments you mentioned, in fact, are using recycled water for irrigation. They weren't doing that before. The Marina Park that we built took down inefficient mobile homes that we're using. In fact, we're saving water with using less water as a park than we were as a mobile home park. So some developments are a benefit. I understand the frustration, and yes, I get emails, and lots of folks are really concerned about that. There are some good things about developments, and there is additional usage. We do account for that in the Urban Water Management Plan. We do account for that when we report to the state about meeting our goals and targets, but we still do feel, and with this ordinance, we do feel that it is a prudent thing to do is to continue to serve until this state emergency drought is over.
So we're continuing to conserve, but when it comes to development, let's say using those apartments as an example, those were approved 5 years ago.
2006?
In 06. Well, they were approved by the general plan update where the voters approved those in 06. And then by the time they went through the zoning process, went through the development process, got their planning approvals and then building permits, now we're here 10 years later and they're finally coming to the ground. But the decision to build them happened 10 years ago. We didn't have a drought 10 years ago.
Correct.
And it's not like we're out of water, so it's not like we're not going to give them an occupancy permit until we get the okay because our drought's not that severe. But that, I guess, could happen. No more residents, I don't care if you're under construction, but that would be a pretty draconian method, and we'd have to be in pretty bad shape to do that. But I understand residents' feelings, and all they know is they see all these new houses going up, and they're taking 2-minute showers instead of 10-minute showers. And, why are they conserving water? Just so that some developer can get rich is, the famous line that everybody likes to hear. So you've got an issue as far as planning, when it was approved, how the process goes, when they finally come online, and the drought happened in the meantime. But we're also allocated water, like you say, with the urban management plan, where we're allocated on a per capita basis, and we establish that baseline based on per capita. So those residents will actually raise our baseline, and it's not like we're taking the water away from the neighbor to give to them. We will get a larger allocation from the state, is that right?
That's correct. So the SB 77 that said conserve 20% by 2020, we're on target. It includes everyone, even with the increase of population. So you're right. It's as we increase population, we know that increase is going to happen until the year 2020. We're hitting the target, and even with the drought in place. So it applies to everyone, but we already anticipated the growth that have been already approved through many of these plans.
Okay, and I know some people don't like the growth no matter what, and it's a convenient excuse, but for those who are earnestly saving water, that's the background for it.
That's true.
Thanks, George.
Any other council comments on this matter? Second? All right, let's vote.
The motion carries unanimously, 6-0.
Madam Mayor, this next item, the introduction of an ordinance to waive past due assessments and associated penalties for the Newport Beach Restaurant Association bid. I'm recommending that this be continued, the public hearing be continued. I think there's some additional discussions that you had intended to have and staff had intended to have with the restaurant bid.
Okay.
So moved.
Second.
All right.
Second.
Comment? Any public comment?
Do we need to vote on that or anything? Public comment.
Public comment.
Okay. May we have a public comment on postponing this item? Seeing none? All right, let's vote.
Before we vote, is there a date certain, or is this more indefinite, City Clerk? Is it, because it is a public hearing, I just want to make sure I continue it the right way.
But to the next meeting, perhaps?
Okay.
Or August 9th, either way.
Let's do the first meeting in August, if that's
Okay,
okay. Thank you.
that's fine,
The only
thank
meeting
you.
in August.
All right, moving.
One moment, the motion
Oh, I'm
carries
sorry.
unanimously, 6-0.
All right. Moving to current business, brought back by reconsideration. Item number 12, Irvine Avenue pavement and median rehabilitation, awarding of that contract. Mr. Webb.
Yes, Mayor, Council Members, Dave Webb, your Public Works Director. This item was requested to come back in regards to awarding of a pavement and landscape project on Irvine Avenue. Mark Vukoyevich, our City Engineer, Deputy Director, is here tonight to give you a little presentation and answer any questions.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Good evening. The Irvine Avenue pavement and median reconstruction project, we originally presented this back to you in June. Here it is for reconsideration. Very briefly, a good component of this project is landscaping, and that was the topic that we discussed at the last meeting. There's 44,000 square feet of grass, and as you know, with the drought restrictions, all of the water has been turned off. The irrigation system is vintage from the 67 and 74. A good component of the project is actually in concrete and Bowmanite too, and so the plan for a lot of these areas was to remove these and update them with current drought-tolerant landscaping. So it includes the asphalt, it includes drainage work, concrete curbs and gutters, ADA improvements, and then, of course, the water-friendly landscaping, which includes colorful shrubs and rockscapes. It includes a sub-drainage system as well for the median, which is an important part of that area. To give you an idea, it includes these types of grasses, which we've used on other medians, and then these shrubs, which provide color and texture, and then also, color. So every few months, the colors change with different plants. If awarded tonight, the construction would start in August. First order of work is the landscaping work, and then followed by street construction and paving, and then we should be complete by the end of the year. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions up here by members of council? Mr. Piotr.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I've had a good time or a good chance to talk to Mr. Vukoyevich regarding this project, and I think that our efforts to save money may be too late because of how far they are along in the process. And I'm not looking to downgrade the standards of this island as much as I am trying to do it in a more cost-effective manner. So I will be, unless I hear something to the contrary from public, supporting this tonight. Thanks.
Any comments more from the council? Seeing none, go out to the public. Any public comments, please come forward.
Councilman, I live in the area, so I did want to comment on that it's a very important...
Your name, if you...
Mel Beal, excuse me. It's on the box as well. that particular corridor coming into the city, particularly since I fly a lot and come in from Orange County Airport, it's the thoroughfare for the taxis to beat the traffic on the 55. Many people coming into the city, that is their number one entry point. And one of the comments I wrote in my notes was, as you come in University Avenue and Irvine Avenue intersection, it's actually one of the prettiest views of all of Newport Beach, looking through the Back Bay Nature Preserve and the inlet coming in from the ocean. So it's quite beautiful. I will concur with the usage of the water type tolerant plants. I just re-landscaped my yard. It looks like it'll tie into it perfectly, so we can feed right into that. The other point on the area that I did want to mention that beyond the people coming in from the airport, myself as a resident, there's an awful lot of traffic, probably 1,000 people per day that use the trails and the Back Bay area and biking and also for horseback riding. So it's a community focal point, I guess, from both a exercise standpoint and congregation standpoint. And the last point I'll make is my current job as a consultant through all of Southern California, and I've probably seen every city in Southern California in the last 2 years. And I'm very proud of Newport Beach and what the past councils and what this council has done. And I do not want to see that degraded. I think we want to keep this city as one of the gems of the Orange County and Southern California. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, please.
Good evening, members of the council, Madam Mayor, and kind of funny to be on this side. But my name is Don Webb, resident of District 3, and your Centennial Mayor, of course. Thank you for reconsidering the contract for the Ward of Irvine Avenue and landscaping improvements. One of the first projects I worked on when I started with the city in '69 was Irvine Avenue. It was not a continuous street at that time, and we maybe should have built the S-curbs with a little longer radius, but anyway, that's the way they were designed. But this is what we have today with the grass and dirt is very definitely not something that we can be proud of. When the water was available and we could water it, at least it was green. Since I heard Mr. Piotr make the comment related to he may now support what is being proposed, that kind of changes a little bit of what I was going to say, but I think that this 1.25 miles of median for $400,000 to $500,000 when you compare to maybe a Corona Del Mar improvement for the entry, which was $500,000 for for one block, is quite a good investment for us. It would give us an opportunity to have Irvine Avenue compete with some of the other streets and arterials in town, like Coast Highway, Balboa Boulevard, Jamboree, as far as having being re-landscaped and put in the drought-resistant and tolerant materials, and now makes the street much more desirable to drive down. So I truly think that we need to go forward with this as bid with the beautiful landscape or the plant materials that have been shown to you tonight, and make it tie in and make this entry, which is really, I think, as I go around town, the only entry in town that isn't pretty well landscaped. So I hope that and urge you all to support the award of this contract, and let's get this done and help solve some of the problems I created in '69.
Thank you. Any other public comments?
Mayor Dixon, Mayor Pro Tem Muldoon, members of the council, my name is Michael McClellan. I live off of Irvine Avenue. I'd like to agree with everything that Mr. Webb just said, and just add that many of you are very fiscally conservative, and as a citizen, I really appreciate that. I don't think that this issue is one of conservatism or non-conservatism, and I think that it's an issue of having lived on both sides of the bay. I went to Corona Del Mar High School, grew up in the Port Streets, etc. I think that we need to treat these important medians in this important arterial approach to our city in the way that we are treating other arterial approaches. And I think that the plan with the current plan with the succulents, etc., is attractive and befitting of our city. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, and council members. I've lived here since
Your name?
Oh,
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I'm Tom Newmeyer. And I've lived here since 1964, and I remember Irvine Boulevard when it had that S, and what a big improvement it was to get the curve the curve in it that made it much safer, but maybe today we might do it different. The reason that I'm here is that, you know, I am a graduate of Mariners, Ensign, Harbor. All those streets are on Irvine Boulevard. I grew up in Dover Shores, and I want to strenuously support the idea of passing this resolution without any restrictions to it. The idea that Irvine Boulevard is somehow a, you know, lesser street just doesn't make any sense. It really is the main thoroughfare. And, you know, one of the things is you think you've got something really smart to say and you're going to wow someone, but the gentleman who expressed the fact that, you know, that's the one street that you go and you see the Back Bay from the standpoint of, you know, you don't get that kind of view of the Back Bay. It's actually a beautiful area. And to degrade it is to turn your back, I think, on all the progress that we've made in making Newport Beach just a better place than it was when I was here in '64. So, you know, I had my opportunity to start my business anywhere in the world. Well, okay, that was an exaggeration. I had an opportunity to start my business someplace else. And because of my love for this city, I have started my business in Newport Beach. I've been here for over 30 years with that. And when I was able to buy back into Newport Beach, I live about a mile, as crow flies, from the house that I grew up in. So I am very committed to this community, and I think that not passing the resolution in the form that it was originally passed would be a big mistake. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comments, please come forward. Seeing none. Mr. Piotr, did you want to say something else? Oh, I don't control. So, okay. Mr. Petros.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I just want to make a few observations here. I just this morning was going to file a claim against the city as a chunk of the asphalt that alligatored off of Irvine Avenue came up and hit my car this morning.
Wow.
So I'm glad that we are hopefully getting underway with this. Not a question of the median, but of just the general quality of the pavement out there. I recently was able to complete a study for the OCTA for the 55, where it ends at 19th Street. And to my amazement, I found out that, in fact, based on the modeling that the county does, Irvine Avenue is the highest volume path for Newport Beach traffic coming in from the north into our town. Most would say, well, wait a minute, whoa, the freeway is. Well, actually, the freeway is very congested, but once you get to 19th and 17th, it disperses into Costa Mesa. And that which proceeds past 16th Street, with the exception of during the summer months, is actually less than the regular traffic that's on Irvine Avenue. Irvine Avenue is a huge entry into our city. It is the gateway for the west side of Newport Beach, for Dover Shores, for Private Drive, for many of the areas on this side of the bay, and it is a scenic vista. Those views as you are coming around Monte Vista and the streets there are unparalleled. You can see out to Saddleback, and we have the beauty of our Back Bay there. When you consider that drive and the welcoming sense that has to our community, it deserves what we have put together in the plant palette and the plan for this roadway. And then I want to thank Mr. Webb for bringing it up. I did the math too, and on a per foot basis of the improvements along that median, it is equivalent and slightly less than that which we spent around Dover and other places in the city. So to suggest that it is this huge cost really belies the truth that it is a modest cost, and over time will prove to be a great sustainable benefit for the community. I think that this is a wonderful project. I always have thought it was a wonderful project, and I think it's something that we should do tonight. Thank you.
Mr. Muldoon, Mayor Pro Tem Muldoon.
Thank you. I am surprised to see two attorneys, Mr. McClellan and Mr. Newmeyer, here without being on someone else's dime. Hope you found another case to bill for while you're here. But you have persuaded me. Excellent, counselors. Also, Councilman Petros and his desire to see this through has also persuaded me. I do think that in the coming next fiscal cycles, we'll have to halt some capital improvement projects and focus on the unfunded pension liability. But this one, as Councilman Piotr correctly said, was set in motion a while ago. Thank you.
Madam Mayor, I'll move the item.
Okay, and I just want to make one other comment. I'm going to vote for the second time for this because I think it's important for our city, and I am happy to support it. Let's vote.
Motion carries unanimously, 6-0.
Madam Clerk.
Motion for reconsideration. A motion to reconsider the vote on any action taken by the City Council, either this meeting or the previous meeting, may be made only by one of the council members who voted for the prevailing side.
All right, this evening we're going to adjourn in the memory of two wonderful citizens of Newport Beach. I'm going to be speaking in memory of Marion Bergeson, and Mr. Selich will be speaking in memory of Mylan Dostal, former mayor of Newport Beach. This morning I had the great honor to speak before the Orange County Board of Supervisors in memory of Marion Bergeson, and I'll repeat many of my words that I spoke this morning. And tonight we adjourn in her honor, and on behalf of our City Council and all women in public service in Orange County, I want to share a few reflections on our friend and mentor, Marion Bergeson. An uncommon woman with a common touch, a beacon of inspiration, integrity, and service, Marion served with incomparable wisdom, good humor, and grace, our North Star guiding us to a better future. Marion created a path for women and gave them the courage and inspiration to serve with the highest standards, to work together to deliver solutions to some of the state's most intractable problems. The Orange County Register noted that 4 decades after she was first elected to the State Assembly, 3 of the county's 7 congressional delegates and 2 of its 5 state senators are female, as are 2 of our supervisors, and 10 of the county's 32 cities have female mayors. Marion blazed that trail for women in Orange County, and we are grateful. She was always generous with her time and efforts. I know because she was so very generous and gracious and helpful to me. I first met Marion in 1978 in Sacramento when she was serving as president of the California School Boards Association and preparing to run for the Assembly. We shared many mutual friends over the years, and she was the first person I met with who discussed my run for Newport Beach City Council. Marion's public service spanned nearly 6 decades, from 1964 until 3 weeks ago. She never stopped actively participating in community activities or local political events, even when battling cancer. She was a constant presence for good. It is often noted that education was her primary focus as she began public service as a member of the Newport Beach City School District Board and continued to lead in various education roles for decades. Yet, there are significant laws enacted under Marion's authorship that dealt with transportation, creating the OCTA, for example, criminal justice, adoption, discrimination in housing and employment, drug trafficking, domestic violence, infant and child care development, planning for California's growth, women in the workforce, equal rights, border issues, health and human services, an incredibly long list of legislative accomplishments across a broad spectrum that improved the life for many in California. Last August, I was pleased and proud to be one of 300 of her close friends who gathered or organized a celebration of her 90th birthday, just days after she went skydiving for the 3rd time. The word went out not to create any more proclamations or plaques. She had a bedroom full of them. She wanted only to celebrate with friends. It was a remarkable evening of remembrances along with In-N-Out burgers and dessert, her favorite foods. In February, I hosted a panel discussion for 250 women here in Newport Beach across the way in the community room women interested in public service in our community. Marion was the keynote panelist and spoke about her life, the challenges she encountered, and her determination to overcome obstacles on her way to great achievement. And she spoke of the important role her family played in supporting her. She set a positive tone for women interested in serving in public life and shared these key messages. Stay focused on your goal, stay grounded with family, hold firm to principle, and enjoy every moment, even the challenging ones. Her message to them and to me that evening was, don't get even, get ahead. She was still leading the way for women in public service and speaking to the next generation. In this and other ways, her influence and inspiration will live on. Modest, humble, and forceful to the end, she was a woman with 1,000 friends on Facebook, and she was adding posts until her last days. She was able to speak her mind without being mean, and she could work with anyone to find common ground and get things done without compromising her principles. Our communities are better because of Marion. Our goals are stronger because of Marion. Our principles are solid because of Marion. Our North Star will continue to guide us even as we move into the future. Without her steady presence, there will never be another Marion Bergeson. As Jan DeBay, former mayor of Newport Beach, wrote to me this week, Marion will be eternally significant. I could not agree more. And our special sympathy goes to her husband, Garth, and children, Garth Jr., James, and Julie McCormick, and their families, and in her great honor. Thank you. Mr. Selledge.
Thank you, Mayor. Former Mayor Mylon Dostal passed away on June 27th at the age of 87. Mylon was born and raised in Minnesota, where he attended Malacaster College and later earned a bachelor's degree and a Juris Doctorate from the University of Minnesota. Mylon served 2 years with the United States Air Force during the Korean War, and after leaving the service, he passed the bar exam. He married his high school sweetheart, Dorothy Olson, and they started a family. The Dostals first moved to Maryland while Mylon worked as an attorney with the United States Justice Department. In 1964, the family moved to Newport Beach, and Mylon established a civil and family law practice. Here in Southern California, the Dostals joined a group of parents to start the Ora Lingua School for the Hearing Impaired. The renowned school taught lip reading and speech skills to enable deaf children to integrate into mainstream society. Mylon then joined the City of Newport Beach Council in 1970. He served as mayor pro tem from 1974 to 1976 and as mayor from 76 to 1978. He was appointed a U.S. Administrative Law Judge in 1989 and served until he retired in 2012. Dorothy passed away shortly after his appointment, and Mylon later married Kay Boss. In addition to being a dedicated family man, Mylon was active in St. Andrew's Presbyterian Church and enjoyed traveling, boating, fishing, sports, music, and bridge. He is survived by his wife, Kay, children Rick Dostal, Pam Burns, and Cindy Long, stepchildren Eric and Peter Boss, a sister, 3 grandchildren, and extended family and friends. And services have already been held. Now, I did not know Mylon personally very well. I met him annually for the last 10 years at our mayor's dinner and had the occasion to chat with him. He impressed me as being a true gentleman and a person who cared for his community. And it's due to former council members like him that we live in the great city that we do today. Thank you.
Any other comments?
I would just say that Marion was such an inspiration and an example to all of us, and we remember her service to the state of California and to education and transportation, but we should also remember that she served our city as well. She was the chairman in 2010 of our Charter Review Commission and helped rewrite the laws of the city and modernize our city charter. She was active in the community in everything that she did. I served on several boards with her, and you are so correct. She will truly be missed and cannot be replaced.
We are adjourned. Thank you.
Okay, Mayor.